This is the game show Binge. Show number 3, VTRA 7/26/2020, airs 8/30/2020. Take 1. Oops. Back to work blues, you know. Welcome to the Game Show Binge. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to the Game Show Binge last month with the Family Feud. And last week with Classic What's My Line. It was a ball. On today's Binge, we pay salute to Tell the Truth, with classic black and white episodes and color episodes. Sit back and relax, and we'll be right back.
You know, everyone knows the importance of taking a break every once in a while when you're working. Well, the same thing holds true if you're having fun. Now, that's why plays have intermissions. And during the intermission, you'll find the nearby fountain where they serve Coca-Cola is a mighty popular place. A sparkling glass of ice-cold Coke is a sparkling addition to the festivity and the excitement of opening night. Coke has a bright flavor, a distinctive flavor, all its own, that has never been equaled. It's bracing, too. Coca-Cola gives you a bit of quick energy that brings you back so refreshed, so quickly, and with as few calories as half an average juicy grapefruit. So, at intermission time, or any time, pause and refresh. Stop at the fountain where Coke is served. Then you can relax with the most asked-for soft drink in the whole world, bright and bracing Coca-Cola. Give yourself a break. Have a Coke.
What is your name, please?
My name is Ted Scotes.
What is your name, please?
My name is Ted Scotes.
What is your name, please?
My name is Ted Scotes.
Two of these people are imposters. Only one of them is the real Ted Scotes, and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. And here is our host, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Welcome and good evening. Awfully glad you could come again to our little game of deliberate misrepresentation. This is the game in which our panel, as you know, tries to figure out which one of 3 challengers has sworn to tell the truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you each week by Geritol, America's #1 tonic, the high-potency tonic that helps you feel stronger fast. Now, before we meet our panel, I'd just like to tell you that there's a very interesting article about all of us on the forthcoming issue of a TV Guide. Thought you might like to pick one up when you're at your newsstand. Now, let's meet our cross-examiner, shall we? What is your name, please?
My name is Patrice Munsell.
My name is Don Amici.
My name is Kitty Carlisle.
My name is Hy Gardner.
Holly Bergen is away on a short vacation, and I must say we're very happy to welcome Patrice Munsell to our panel tonight.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're sure glad to have you. Now, these 3 people directly above me here all claim to be Ted Scotes. Of course, you know as well as I do that only one of them is the real Ted Scotes. The other 2 have merely assumed that identity, and they do not have to stick to the truth. Now, panel, if I can tear your gazes away long enough, follow along with your copies of this affidavit while I read it, I'll appreciate it. I, Ted Scotes, am a senior at the University of Pennsylvania. I am head cheerleader and company commander in the Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps. My major extracurricular activity, however, involves the Mask and Wig Club, which each year presents an original musical show in which all the parts are played by male students. I will wear this costume in the 1958 Mask and Wig production, Free for All. Signed, Ted Scotes. Now, panel, these three graceful gentlemen all claim to be Ted Scotes, member of the Mask and Wig Club. Only the real Ted Scotes is required, as usual, to answer your questions truthfully. You will each question until you hear this signal, and at the end of the questioning period, you will, of course, be asked to register your vote for the one who, in your opinion, is the real Ted Scotes. And we'll begin tonight's questioning with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty.
Thank you, Bud. Number one. Can you tell me what well-known political figure was the president of the University of Pennsylvania?
Mr. Stassen.
Number two, have any well-known songs ever come out of the Mask and Wig production?
Yes.
Could you tell me what they were, number three?
Yes, Gypsy in My Soul, Daddy.
Daddy what?
Oh, just Daddy, Kitty.
Just Daddy.
Daddy-o.
Number two, it says in your affidavit that you're a cheerleader. Could you give me a short cheer?
Go, Pennsylvania, go.
Sure.
You did ask for a
Number
short one,
one.
didn't you?
Number one, do you have your own theater?
We have the Irvine Auditorium there on the campus.
What's a fly?
Hi, Gardner. I don't mean Hi, Gardner's a flight. I don't mean Hi.
I'll continue that question. What is a fly?
The fly is what hangs over the stage, or grid fly.
Number three, when was Bill Holden a member of the Mask and Wig show? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Do you know number two?
No, I don't.
Do you know number one?
I don't think he was.
Number two, do you know what newspaper in Philadelphia carries my column?
I don't know.
Do you know number three?
No, I
Do
don't.
you know number one?
In Philadelphia, nearly everyone reads the bulletin.
I don't know, sir.
In other words, you've never seen the column in the Empire, have you?
No, sir.
Uh-huh.
Patrice Munsell.
Number two, who's your dressmaker?
Vaughan Company.
Huh? Who? I missed that.
John Vaughan.
Number three, who is your dressmaker?
Van Horns.
What do you use to stick a wig on with? Number one.
Number one.
I'm sorry.
I don't use anything, but they do have a kind of tape that you can use.
Let me see. What do you call someone, number two, who arranges dance routines?
I don't know.
Number three, what are you majoring in?
History.
Number two, how many hours are you carrying?
6.
6 hours. Number three, how many credits do you need to graduate?
126.
126. Number one, what's your school song?
Well, there's Hale, Pennsylvania. That's most popular.
Number two, who's the present football coach?
Sal Bartolo.
Number three, what's an entr'acte?
Pardon?
Number two, what's an entr'acte?
I don't know.
Before we find out if number one does or not, it's time to vote, panel. So without consultation, will you mark your ballots and select, as usual, number one, number two, or number three? Remember, please, the team who challenges gets $250 for every incorrect vote. Patrice, have you voted?
I vote for number one because, well, he didn't know things so well.
Don, how about your selection?
I voted for number one also because all the cheerleaders I know are blondes.
Kitty Carlisle, how about your
I
selection?
voted for number one on the basis of what number two and number three did not know. Number two didn't know about a choreographer. Number three didn't know what an entr'acte was, so I was left with number one.
And by that process of elimination, Hi, Gardner, at what did you arrive?
Well, I was going to vote for number one, but I switched to three because he's the first person that I think that I've ever seen to whom one of those chemise gowns is flattering.
All right. You've heard the votes and the reasons we voted the way we did. We'll find out right now which one of these gentlemen is the member of the Mask and Wig Club. So will the real Ted Scotes please stand up? Thank you very much. Number one, would you tell us who you really are and what you do?
My name is Conard Folks, and I'm an insurance investigator for Mutual of Omaha.
And number two, what about you, sir?
My name is Eddie Pat McDonough. I'm a page in Massachusetts House of Representatives and also light heavyweight champion of New England.
Well, it was fun all the way down the line, and I think if you fellas don't know already, I'll tell you that there were 3 incorrect votes for a total at $250 per each of $750 from Geritol. Thanks for being with us. Good luck on the show. Good night, and good luck to all of you. Please.
What is your name, please?
My name is Dorothy Stratton.
What is your name, please?
My name is Dorothy Stratton.
What is your name, please?
My name is Dorothy Stratton.
Panel, once more, may I ask you to follow along with your copies of this affidavit? I, Dorothy Stratton, have been active in Girl Scouting for the past 7 years. I was formerly Dean of Women and a professor at a major Midwestern university. During World War II, I held the rank of captain as director of the SPARS, the Women's Reserve of the United States Coast Guard. I am now the National Executive Director of the Girl Scouts of the United States of America. Signed, Dorothy Stratton. Well, panel, as you just heard, these ladies all claim to be Dorothy Stratton, National Executive Director of the Girl Scouts. We'll start this cross-examination with Don Amici. Don, please.
Number one, you were Dean of Women at what university?
The University of Kansas.
Number two?
Purdue University.
Number three?
The University of Chicago.
Kansas, Purdue, and Chicago. Number two, what is Kappa Kappa Gamma?
Kappa Kappa Gamma is a sorority.
Number three, what is a tridelt?
Is a fraternity.
And number one, what is a phi delt?
That's also a sorority.
Number one, what degree do you have?
BS.
And what did you major in?
Physical education.
Now, Kitty?
Number one, how much is a box of Girl Scout cookies?
Glad you asked that. 40 cents.
Number two, what flavors are you featuring?
That depends on where they're being sold.
Well, in New York City.
I wouldn't be sure.
Number three, who's head of the Girl Scouts in New York?
Dorothy Stratton.
In New York? What, number one, who's head of the Girl Scouts in New York?
Mrs. Lumton.
Number two?
Mrs. Phipps.
Number three, why are women in the Coast Guard called spars?
That was taken from the motto, Semper Paratus, always ready, S-P-A-R.
Number one, can you tell me if all Girl Scouts are expected to tell the truth?
Definitely.
Well, to the other two, all I can
Number one, where is the Annapolis of the Coast Guard located?
The Annapolis of the Coast Guard?
Mm-hmm.
In New London.
Number three, where is it located? Do you know?
In New London.
Number two, what did you teach?
I taught psychology.
Where?
At Purdue University.
I see, you remembered. Number 3, during peacetime, under what supervision or jurisdiction is the Coast Guard?
It's under the Treasury Department.
Uh-huh. Number 3 also, do you recall that when you were director of the spars, who was the director of the wax?
Ovita Hobby.
Uh-huh.
Patrice?
Number 1, can you repeat the Scout oath?
Yes, I can. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help everyone at all times, and to keep the Scout laws.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, who designed the SPAR's uniforms?
Mambochet.
Good design. Number 3, in your work with the Girl Scouts, have you ever heard of Mary Kay Wilson?
No, I haven't.
Number 1?
No, I haven't.
Number 2?
No, I haven't.
Who originally founded the Girl Scouts?
Which number?
Number 1.
A lady in Savannah.
Afraid we can't wait any longer because it's time to vote. So without consultation, panel, once more, will you mark your ballots? Again, selecting number 1, number 2, or number 3. All set, Patrice? For whom did you vote this time?
For number 3, because she wears her uniform with such authority.
And your selection, Don?
I voted for number 2. She was the only one that got the sororities and the fraternities correct.
And Kitty, what was your vote this
Well, I
time?
voted for number 2. We have a brownie in our house.
You have.
And I knew about Mrs. Phipps. And I believe Mambochet did design the costume, and I believe it's number 2.
And for whom did you vote high?
You have a brownie in your house?
Yes.
It's funny, I use a Polaroid. I voted for number 1, principally, I think, because she looks like a Girl Scout who once helped me cross the street.
All I can say is I hope there's film in your camera, huh? All right, there we have our votes and our reasons. How are you doing at home? Let's see how you are as we find out right now which one of these ladies is the National Executive Director of the Girl Scouts. So will the real Dorothy Stratton please stand up? Thank you very much.
So well.
Because she said Mambouche well, that was it.
Right. I should have known. Oh,
Number
Holly.
1, would you tell us who you really are and what you do?
My name is Margaret Stevenson. In the winter, I'm a housewife in New York. In the summer, I raise herbs and lettuce in Maine.
And number 3, what about you?
My name is Nina Badnock. I'm Director of Radio and Television for the National Society for Crippled Children and Adults, the Easterfield Society.
Along with giving to the Easter Seal campaign, which is a worthy one, I suppose everybody knows that this is National Girl Scout Week, and also that you can count on a Girl Scout for citizenship and for service. Am I right? Well, we thank you for being with us, and may I tell you that according to the scoreboard, there were 2 incorrect votes at $250 each for a total of $500 from Geritol. Thank you, ladies. Hope you enjoyed it. We did. Good night and good luck. Miss Stratton, of course, has asked us to see to it that her share of any winnings that are coming to her go to the Girl Scouts, which, of course, we will take care of, Stratton. Now we'll meet a new set of challengers and challengers, please.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jimmy McClain.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jimmy McClain.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jimmy McClain.
All right, panel, you have listened and you have looked. Now, please follow along with your copies of this affidavit. I, Jimmy McClain, am in the broadcasting business. Since 1955, I have been in radio station management and am now manager of station WLAQ. For the 7 years previous to 1954, I was active as an ordained minister in the Protestant Episcopal Church. I am perhaps best known to the American public through the fact that from 1940 to 1946, I gave away close to 1 million silver dollars when I was the famous radio quizmaster, Dr. IQ. Signed, Jimmy McLean. You gentlemen all claim to be Jimmy McLean, Dr. IQ. Can we begin this one with Hi Gardner? Hi?
Number one, there was a phrase that became very well associated with you. It was practically a trademark, and every time anybody imitated you, they used the phrase. What was that phrase?
I beg your pardon?
There was a phrase that was used every time anybody imitated Dr. IQ. What was that phrase?
Give that lady 15 silver dollars.
Number three, what was your answer to that?
I have a lady in the balcony, you mean?
Yeah. Number one, what president's profile is engraved on a silver dollar? You gave away 1 million of them.
What president?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it is.
What is it?
Miss Liberty.
Uh-huh. Number two, what president was engraved on a silver dollar?
It is Miss Liberty.
Uh-huh. Number...
Patrice Munsell.
How come nobody ever put Dr. IQ on television? It's about the only thing that's missing. Number two?
It has been on television.
It has.
That's correct. About 3.5 years ago.
Good grief. Well, I must have been listening to the radio.
They didn't give away enough money, dear.
Number three, as Dr. IQ, how many announcers did you have in your studio audience?
6, usually.
Number one, how many did you usually have?
6.
Number two, how many silver dollars would you give as an answer to a question like, who is buried in Grant's tomb?
If it were possible to split the silver dollar, we might. Occasion never arose.
Down to meet you, please.
Number three, who was the lady in the balcony?
I don't know.
Number two, how many minutes and seconds does a half-hour radio program run? Sponsored or sustaining?
Sponsored.
Approximately 26.
Number three, when you finish a sponsored half-hour radio program, do you go off on when the second hand is straight up, or at 15 seconds after, 30 seconds after, where?
30 seconds after.
Kitty?
Number one, I believe one of the features of your Dr. IQ program was a tongue twister. Could you give me an example?
New York is swell, said Mel to Nell. New York is swell, Mel, to him, said Nell. Would you try it too? We call them thought twisters.
Thought twisters, yes, that's very good. Number two, where is WLAQ?
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans?
That's correct.
Where in New Orleans?
12 South Peter Street.
Oh, can you
Just
say
off
New
the
Orleans,
Boulevard.
number three?
Beg pardon?
Where is WLAQ according to you?
WLAQ, it's in Rome,
Rome what?
Georgia.
Oh, Italy, of course. Shortwave every night on the hour. Okay, time to vote once again, panel. So get out your pencils and your ballots and vote for number one, number two, or number three. Okay, Pat? Huh?
Well, I voted for number two because he said sustained or sponsored, and that's everything to all of us.
So your vote was for number two. All right, Don, what about you?
I voted for number one. He's the only one who looks like he's strong enough to haul all those silver dollars.
Kitty, your selection, please.
Well, I voted for number one on the basis of the tongue twister. I think that was it.
Of course, you didn't ask the other two. They might have had it.
No.
Hi, what about your choice?
I voted for number three because I still think that the lady in the balcony was the thing that was most closely associated with Dr. IQ.
All right, there we have it now. Rhymes and reasons. We'll find out right now how right or wrong we were as we discover which of these three gentlemen is the real Dr. IQ. So, will the real Jimmy McLean please stand up? Well, great. Number one, would you tell us who you really are and what you do, please?
My name is Gene Wethington. I'm a speech therapist with Alfred Dixon Speech Center.
And number two, what about you, sir?
My name is John Casey. I'm Advertising Promotion Director of the American Journal of Nursing.
And just to set the record straight, WLAQ is in Rome, Georgia. This is where it happens to be. Well, I sure hope you had fun, gentlemen. You got a pretty good score. You almost tripped the entire panel. There were 1, 2, 3 incorrect votes at $250 each for a total of $750 in Geritol. Thanks so very much for being with us. Good night and good luck.
Thank you.
50.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight, except to thank Miss Patrice Munsell for stopping by and visiting us on our panel.
Oh, I wish I could have brought my writers along.
Well, you certainly charmed us. We certainly enjoyed having you.
Oh, I love being
And I think we should all return the visit on Friday nights and pay a visit
you at
to...
9:30 on another channel?
Boy, I'm telling you, I didn't have to say that at all, did I? Well, we'll be there. We always are. And thanks again, Pat.
Thank you.
And, of course, Polly will be back with us next week. And I guess that's all I can think of to say except good night, panel. Hate to do it.
Good night,
Good
Bud.
night.
Good night to you all. And now this is Bud Collier saying good night from Geritol and reminding you to tell the truth. Good night, everybody.
Family Feud and Millionaire are now on back-to-back.
Look out! Mama likes that, yeah!
Double the feuds.
It's a big responsibility, but I accept it.
Double the drama.
What is your name, please?
My name is Virginia Kraft.
What is your name, please?
My name is Virginia Kraft.
What is your name, please?
My name is Virginia Kraft.
Two of these people are imposters. Only one of them is the real Virginia Kraft and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. And here is our host, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome once again to our game of deliberate misrepresentation, wherein our panel endeavors to figure out which one of 3 challengers has sworn to tell the truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you each week by Geritol, America's #1 tonic, the high-potency tonic that helps you feel stronger fast. And now let's meet our cross-examiners. What is your name, please?
My name is Polly Bergen.
My name is Ralph Bellamy.
My name is Kitty Carlisle.
And my name is Hy Gardner.
Now, these 3 ladies all claim to be Virginia Kraft. Only one, of course, is the real Virginia Kraft. The other 2 have merely assumed that identity, and they do not have to stick to the truth. Panel, may I ask you to follow along with your copies of an affidavit which I'm about to read? You'll find those copies in front of you. And follow along with me. I, Virginia Kraft, am hunting and fishing reporter for Sports Illustrated magazine. I have hunted in Mexico, in Africa, all over the United States, and I was once the guest of General Franco at a private hunt in Spain. Signed, Virginia Kraft. Now, panel, as you heard, these 3 ladies all claim to be Virginia Kraft, hunting and fishing reporter for Sports Illustrated magazine. Only the real Virginia Kraft is required to answer your questions truthfully, and as usual, you will each question until you hear this signal. At the end of the questioning period, you will be asked to register your vote for the one who, in your opinion, is the real Virginia Kraft. And we'll begin tonight with Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, what is a bonefish?
It's a fish found in the flatlands around Florida.
Number 2, how do you fish for it?
Generally with flies.
And number 1, how does it feed?
It feeds usually from the habitat with about them.
Uh-huh. Number 3, what was the most dangerous animal you ever hunted for?
Rhinoceros, I believe.
Is that considered the most dangerous animal of all to hunt?
No, I don't think so. I think it's generally considered to be the water buffalo.
Water buffalo?
Yes.
Number 2, what do you consider the most dangerous animal to hunt for?
Oh, I think the buffalo.
Water buffalo.
Or the Cape buffalo.
What is a muskellunge, number 1?
A muskellunge. Did I hear you correct?
Yes, yes.
Hi, Gardner.
I'll never find out.
You'll find out a muskellunge is a cantaloupe. The cantaloupe is akin to an antelope. Number 3, what type of hunter shoots at redheads?
Duck hunter.
Number 2, what does the name John Denton Scott mean to you?
I think he used to write about dogs.
Number 3, what does the name Scott mean to you?
Field trials, I believe.
And how about you, number 1?
He at one time wrote about dogs.
Number 3, the most famous photograph of Hemingway shows him with a foot on an animal that he just shot. What is that animal?
Rhinoceros, I believe. I don't remember.
Number 2, would you know the answer to that?
I never.
Number 1?
I am not certain.
Number 3, what kind of a fish did Hemingway's Old Man of the Sea fish for?
That was a marlin.
Thank you.
Polly?
Number 1, what did you shoot in Spain?
In Spain with Franco boar.
You mean it's legal over there?
Depends on how boring.
Number 2, what is piranha?
Pardon me?
What is piranha?
You mean that little tiny fish?
That's what I meant. Number 3, what caliber gun would you use to shoot an elephant?
45.
Number 1, what caliber would you use to shoot an elephant?
308 caliber.
Number 2, what caliber would you use?
Something in the 45 caliber class.
Number 3, do you ever feel squeamish about shooting animals at all?
No, because one shouldn't be out shooting unless one can shoot on one shot dead, and there's nothing sad about it.
Nothing to squeam about. Ralph?
Oh, no.
Number 1, you say you've hunted all over the United States. Where's the middle fork of the Salmon River?
The middle fork of the
Salmon
River, you find that...
Number 2, do you know?
Not sure.
Wyoming?
Number 3, where would you say it is?
I don't know.
Number 1, where's the Sangre de Cristo range of mountains, southwest?
The Sacra de Cristo.
Sangre de Cristo.
Sandra Cristo. It is Spain.
Where?
Sandra Cristo. Next.
That's all the time we have, pal. It's time to vote now, and without consultation. Will you mark your ballots and select by that marking number 1, number 2, or number 3? May I remind you that the team of challengers will get $250 for every incorrect vote. Polly, we're back to you to start off tonight, so if you've marked your ballot, let's have your vote.
Well, I voted for number 3, but I like number 1 because she shot boar, and I think anybody that's got the guts to do that should be voted for. But number 3 had a couple of very sharp answers, so I voted for her.
Okay, Ralph, what's your choice?
Number 1.
I thought I was wrong.
I'm not too clear, but mainly on the rifle, 308.
Okay, Kitty, your selection?
Number 3. Well, number 3 looked like no bonehead, but she knew about bonefish. And also, I didn't want to be misled by my colleague, Hi Gardner, who always misleads me about people like John Denton Scott. So I paid no attention to that at all. I don't know who he is.
All right, Hi, what was your choice?
Well, I voted for number 3, too. She was right about a redhead being a duck. I don't know how you can shoot an elephant with a 45. I think his hide is too thick, but I may be wrong. However, in addition to everything else, she's tall and thin and fast, and I think a good hunter should also be able to run fast.
At least discreet. All right, the votes are in. I can't tell if our minds are really made up, but if yours are, let's see how you compare with ours as we discover which of these 3 ladies is the real hunting and fishing reporter for Sports Illustrated magazine. So, will the real Virginia Kraft please stand up? fooled you completely that time. Number one, would you tell us who you really are and what you do, please?
My name is Margaret Findlay, and I'm a registered nurse. I do private duty in New York.
How about you, number three, you who are tall and thin and able to run fast?
My name is Katie Kent, and I'm associated with Petroleum Equities, which is an oil brokerage house. And my husband, Carl Kent, designed the set for this show.
A clean sweep there, challengers. So you have a total of $1,000 coming to you from Geritol. Thank you very much for being with us. Hope you had fun. We did. Good night and good luck. Now we'll meet our next group of challengers in just a moment, but at this time, we'd like to wish... Now let's meet our next group of challengers, please.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jack Bothwell.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jack Bothwell.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jack Bothwell.
All right, panel, may I ask you to follow along with your copies as I read you this affidavit? I, Jack Bothwell, am the maitre d' in a restaurant in New Jersey. 30 years ago, I won a prize in a baby parade in Atlantic City. A scout for the Hal Roach Motion Picture Studio saw me, and over the next few years, I played in 9 of the famous Our Gang comedies. You may remember me as Freckles, signed Jack Bothwell. Now, as you heard, panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Jack Bothwell, member of one of the original groups in the Our Gang comedies. Remember again that only the real Mr. Bothwell is required to answer your questions truthfully, and we begin this round with Ralph Bellamy. Ralph?
Number one, does the name Eddie Klein mean anything to you?
No.
Number two, does it mean anything to you?
No, it doesn't.
Number three, does it mean anything?
No, sir.
No. Number one, on what street is the Hal Roach studio?
Well, I never made a picture in California.
Oh.
All the pictures that I was involved in were done here in the East.
Mm-hmm. Number two, do you know what street the Hal Roach studio's on?
Well, it's been a long while since I've been out there. It was in Culver City, but the exact street I don't know.
Number three, what street is the Hal Roach studio on?
I never made a picture on the coast.
Are you sure these are the right three fellas?
Number one, you're from New Jersey. What's the name of the new governor, and whom did he just defeat?
Well, he defeated Malcolm Forbes, the Republican, and Minor is the Democratic governor of New Jersey at the present time.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 3, could you tell me what happened to your freckles?
They went the same place as my waistline.
I was interested because I get them in the summertime, and if I could put mine where you put... No, that's not what I mean. Number 1, what did you wear in the baby parade in Atlantic City?
Well, my mother dressed me as a pirate. And my father made up a little ship with baby carriage wheels.
Number 2, I want to find out what number 2 wore in the baby parade.
Hi, Gardner.
This is all very confusing to me because they all look like Toots Shore. Number 3, where in New Jersey and in what restaurant are you the maitre d'?
The Union House in Red Bank, New Jersey.
In Red Bank, New Jersey. What's the name of the river that runs through Red Bank?
The Neversink.
Number 2, what is the name of the river that runs through Red Bank? Do you know?
The Red Bank River.
The Red Bank River, huh? Number 1. Nanette Fabray was in Our Gang comedies. Do you remember what they used to call her?
Well, you see, there was different sequences. I was in the middle group. There was a gang that had outgrown their usefulness before me, and there was
Well,
another
you keep
gang
talking
after me. She was with the latter.
That gang.
Molly Bergen.
Number one, name the members of the gang that was current when you were in them, with them.
Well, there was Baby Jane, Baby Marie, Jackson, there was Sunshine Sammy, there was Farina, and there was a little dog named Spot. Whatever.
Who was Baby Marie? What was Baby Marie's real name?
Well, don't get her confused with the other baby, Rosemarie, who came later, who hates to be called Baby Rose.
I was
She was in
confusing.
the 2nd Battalion.
Oh, I see. Number three, what was the name of the law that was passed to save child stars' salaries?
Child Star Saving Law. That's all we have time for, panel. I'm sorry to say. Once again, it's time to vote. So without consultation, will you once again mark your ballots and select number 1, number 2, or number 3? Okay, you all set? Polly? For whom did you vote?
I voted for number one. I don't know, he got awfully involved in some of his answers, which always throw me a little. But number one looks like, I think Freckles looks like, if I remember which one was Freckles, which I'm not sure.
You couldn't say that again.
I won't dare ask you to. Ralph,
First time you were ever logical, you know.
Ralph?
Number one. Not much reason. I believed him. I think he was a little long-winded there in some of his replies, but I believed him.
Okay, Kitty, how about you?
Number one.
Should I call you Freckle Waist?
I liked his story about what he rode around in the parade in the baby carriage in. I see him as a pirate.
And Hi, your selection?
I am a dissenter. I voted for number 3. First, because somehow he looks like a larger edition of this little fat Freckles. And secondly, as a maitre d', he looks like the kind of a fellow that you would have to slip a fin to get a good table.
Well, I've never seen a fat freckle, but still, the votes are in and our minds are made up. Let's see how well we did now as we discover which one of these gentlemen is the real member of the original Our Gang comedies. So will the real Jack Bothwell please stand up? Well, I did very well on that one. Number one, as a matter of fact, I just happen to have a picture of Mr. Bothwell when he was in Our Gang comedy. Would you like it?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
In case you wonder where the freckles went. There he is.
I've changed a bit.
That isn't the one I was thinking of.
Oh, you were thinking of the third group, probably.
Yeah, I think
Must
so.
have been. All right. How about you now? Number one, would you tell us who you really are and what you do?
My name is Tom Garrity, owner and operator of Tom Garrity Automotive Service on West 36th Street, Manhattan.
Matter of fact, he's entirely too modest because Mr. Garrity actually is known for his charitable activities on the Lower West Side and is known as the mayor of Hell's Kitchen.
Oh.
And number two, would you tell us about yourself, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Barney Martin. I'm on leave from the police department here in the city of New York, and I'm currently the associate producer on the Jan Murray television show Treasure Hunt.
Well, gentlemen, you did very well. There were 3 incorrect votes at $250 each for a total of $750 for you to divide from Geritol. Thanks for being with us. Good night and good luck. Yes, please.
What is your name, please?
My name is Helen Martini.
What is your name, please?
My name is Helen Martini.
What is your name, please?
My name is Helen Martini.
Now, panel, again, may I direct your attention to your copies of this affidavit? I, Helen Martini, have devoted the past 15 years of my life to the care of the young. The young in my particular case includes young lions, young tigers, young leopards, and young gorillas. This is all part of my work at the Bronx Zoo in New York City, where I am in charge of the animal nursery. Signed, Helen Martini. All claim to be Helen Martini. Panel, superintendent of the animal nursery at the Bronx Zoo. Remember, question until you hear the signal. We'll start with Polly Bergen. Polly?
Number one, what is a coatimundi?
It's a raccoon.
Number two, how do you spell the name?
Coatimundi.
Number three, I owned an ocelot for quite a while, and she had a tendency to eat wool. I lost several sweaters and things. Is this usual?
No.
It isn't? I guess I
Just
had
like
a weird ocelot. That's all. Number one, there is one cat that can be pretty thoroughly domesticated. Which cat is that?
I think all cats can.
Number two, the same question.
Ralph?
Number one, does the name Fairfield Osborne mean anything to you?
Yes, he's president of the Zoological Society, the New York Zoological Society.
Number two, what's the average weight of a newborn gorilla?
Approximately. I have never had any experience with it.
Number three, what would you say?
3 pounds.
Number one, what would you say?
About 20, 25 pounds.
Number one, what distinguishing characteristic is there between, that is, of young lions as opposed to young tigers up to the age of about a year?
I have to call time on you, Ralph, because you ran a little long there. Won't have time for Kitty. Kitty?
Number two, are your young animals born of animals in captivity?
Yes.
Number three, do all wild animals mate in captivity?
No.
Number one, do young animals require love the way young humans do, or don't they care?
They care very much. They respond to it.
And they need it. Number two, can you tell me if young animals have the same diseases that young people do? Are they susceptible to colds, measles,
Yes,
and so
they
on?
are.
Do you invent your own medicine?
No.
No.
Highgarden.
Number one, on what street is the Bronx Zoo located?
Well, the main entrance is at 185th Street and Southern Boulevard.
What is the street, the adjacent street, the wide street right next to it? Do you know?
Pelham Parkway.
Do you know what number two? The wide street next to the zoo? I guess you never chase your animals there.
Southern Boulevard.
Number three, how about you?
Bruckner Boulevard.
Beg pardon?
Bruckner Boulevard.
Number one, you watch animals growing up. Is it true or not that a leopard never changes its spots?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Number three, what...
That's it. Sorry to say our time is gone. It's time to vote. So will you please mark your ballots, panel? And so doing, select as usual either number one, number two, or number three. Okay, we all set? Polly?
Might as well get a clean
Down the track. Here we go. For whom did you vote, Polly?
I just will get them all wrong. I voted for number three. She looks too young to have worked at the zoo for 15 years. But I don't know, there was just something about her that looked like a woman who took care of animals and loved them.
Ralph, how about your choice?
Number one.
That's who I thought it was. I did, really.
I'm mainly being consistent. I've stayed with number one all evening. I've been wrong the other 2 times, but maybe I'll be right.
Okay, Kitty, what about yours?
Number three. Well, I thought Fairfield Osborne was president of the zoo, not the Zoological Society. And number three, I just felt she was it.
And Highgarden's choice.
I voted for number one, too. Bruckner Boulevard is not near the zoo, I don't think. And number one looks like the type who for years has been reading Between the Lions. Yeah, me too.
Yes, that's enough reason, I think.
He's sorry.
I can tell. All right.
I'm sorry.
Hang your head, then, while we find out which one of these ladies is actually the one who was superintendent of the animal nursery at the Bronx Zoo. Will the real? Beg pardon, it's number two. Will the real Helen Martini please stand up? Oh, boy, this is not our night, I must say.
I quit.
Oh, don't quit, please, Polly. Incidentally, the real Mrs. Martini has just written a book called My Zoo Family, and she interrupted a very busy lecture schedule to come and join us tonight. We're very grateful to her, believe me. Now, let's find out about the others. Number one, who are you really and what do you do?
My name is Rosalie Walton, and I'm the television agent with the Burt McHugh Agency.
How about you?
My name is Pauline Rood. I own and operate Pauline's Donut Shop at 858 2nd Avenue.
Well, you did all right. I'll tell you, you hit them right down the line for a total of $1,000 from Geritol. Thank you very much, ladies. Good night, and the best of luck to you. Now, this is Bud Colley reminding all of you to tell the truth. Good night, everybody.
GSM shows are playing, bingo cards keep on playing with GSM Live. You can join our winner, you can join our winner wonderland.
Bingo rules. Because winning rocks. Of course, Bingo America, weeknights at 6:30, 5:30 Central. Only.
What is your name, please?
My name is William D. Hackett.
What is your name, please?
My name is William D. Hackett.
What is your name, please?
My name is William D. Hackett.
Two of these people are imposters. Only one of them is the real William D. Hackett, and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. And here, beginning our second year on the air, is the host of To Tell the Truth, Bud Collyer.
Thank you very much, and good evening, and welcome once again to our game of deliberate misrepresentation, wherein our panel endeavors to figure out which one of three challengers has sworn to tell the truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you each week by Geritol, America's #1 tonic, a high-potency tonic that helps you feel stronger fast. And now let's meet our cross-examiners. What is your name, please?
My name is Polly Bergen.
My name is Ralph Bellamy.
My name is Kitty Carlisle.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Charles.
In between the heartaches and the crying, in between the sad songs that I sing all night long, it's so nice to leave the show. Cool my throat, have a cold, don't you know? Because things go better with Coca-Cola. Yeah, now things go better with Coke. Yeah.
What is your name, please?
My name is Evelyn Boran.
My name is Evelyn Boran.
My name is Evelyn Boran.
Only one of these ladies is the real Evelyn Boran. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, Betsy Palmer, plus 100 people in our studio audience on To Tell the Truth. This portion of To Tell the Truth is brought to you by Campbell's Bounty Stew. Sitting in for Bud Collyer is the producer of To Tell the Truth, Mr. Mark Goodson.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Panel, first of all, there's good news and there's bad news today. The bad news is that Bud Collier is not feeling well, and I hope he's going to feel well again very soon. The good news is I get to do this. And I've never done it before. I'm a producer. It's much easier to be back there frowning at you. And you notice that because of me, in my honor, the first spot has 3 beautiful girls. All right? Betsy, you're also here instead of Kitty, who is off at the Met. I think
is she
singing,
off
or
with the Metropolitan?
yeah.
Oh,
And
good.
I understand you're on your way to do some singing.
I'm off to do, well, why do you suppose I have a haircut again?
South Pacific.
I'm off to do South Pacific again in California. In fact, we open next Tuesday, Jean-Pierre Aumont and myself.
Sweet
How
man.
about that? I hear he is a very, very nice man.
Okay.
In West Covina, can I say where?
Yeah, you
The
can say West
Carousel?
Covina.
All
Okay.
right.
Now that we've finished the plugging, today again we're going to give 100 people in our studio audience a chance to vote electronically each time we play a game on To Tell the Truth. So audience, stay alert please and get your voting buttons ready. We'll be calling on you in a few seconds. Now panel, in front of you are today's envelopes, the contents of which you've never seen before. So open up envelope number 1 and follow along as I read. I, Evelyn Boren, am an underwater stunt woman. I've appeared in the swimming sequences of 2 James Bond movies. The most difficult stunt that I have performed was riding on the back of a 5-ton killer whale. Swimming seems to come naturally to my family. My husband is a well-known underwater photographer, and our baby daughter has been swimming since she was 4 months old. Signed, Evelyn Boren. And we will now start the questioning with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you. Number 3, you all 3 have beautiful tans and are fine-looking ladies. Number 3, in what movie did you ride on the back of a 5-ton killer whale?
Namu the killer whale.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that, but I saw it around the neighbor theaters. Did you really do it, or was it tricked up in
Yes.
some way? You really did it? My goodness, who was supposed to be doing it in the picture?
Who was supposed to be
Yeah,
doing it?
somebody else, I mean, or was it,
Um,
were you a character in the picture?
Yes. She was Miss America once before.
Oh, the lady that you were supposed to be, I see. Number 1, in the James Bond pictures, did you do any of the underwater stuff in the big underwater fight
Yeah,
sequence?
well, not in the underwater fight, but I was swimming underwater.
Yes.
Dubbing the actor.
All right, Betsy, please.
Number 1, who plays James Bond in your film?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. And what kind of build does Sean Connery have?
What kind of build?
I mean,
What was the question there?
I would like to know what his build, his physical build is like.
His build?
Yes.
He's built very well.
Tall. No, but is he a tall man or a...
He's fairly tall, yes.
Fairly tall. Number 2, did you shoot all of the sequence in Florida, or did you have to go elsewhere?
No, we shot it in Nassau.
In Nassau?
Yes.
Yes. And did you shoot anywhere else?
All right, Tom Poston, please.
Number 2, what happened to Namu?
What happened in Namu? Well, Namu...
No, to Namu.
To Namu. He died.
Poor beastie. Over love of a girl, I think. Girl killer whale. Number 1, do you go down into the water and hold your breath for a long, long time while they film it, or do you have to keep coming back up and forth?
Well, I have to come back up and take a new breath. I can't stay that long.
Number 1, you're sometimes made up to resemble the actresses whose place you're taking in the underwater sequences, right?
Yes.
What about, now number 3 has plenty of long hair. I can't tell about number 2, but your hair seems short. Do you have to wear a fall or a wig?
Yes, I wear a wig.
And it doesn't come off in the water?
No.
Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number 1, was your killer whale tame that you rode?
Number 1.
I'm sorry. No, it wasn't. It was captured.
Well, number 3, how did you stay on? I mean, what did you use? Suction cups on your feet or something?
No, well, every time he went underwater, I got off him, and then I came on. They just shot him in sequences.
That seems very bright to me. Number 2, have you ever run into any poisonous fish down there, like Portuguese men of war or stuff like that? Have you ever been hurt?
I have not.
You never have?
No.
Thank you.
All right, panel. Brilliant questioning. Now, without change of consultation, it's time for you to mark your ballots. And while you're voting, it's time for those in our studio audience group to vote. On the voting machines in front of each of you are 3 buttons. When I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote. Music from another sphere. All right? Your votes have now been registered, and we're going to reveal the results in just a moment. But first, let's see how the panel votes. Now, Tom, what'd you vote for?
Mark, I voted for number 1. I thought she was a girl with a great sense of humor, and I think you would have to have that to do this kind of dangerous work and enjoy it.
All right, Peggy, which one did you
Well,
select?
I almost voted for 1 because she knew that Sean Connery is very well built, as indeed he is, but after all, anybody that saw the movies would know that. I voted for number 2 because she knew that poor little Nemu the whale died.
Oh.
He died in his nest.
Oh. He was trying, it was the mating season, and he was trying to get out.
Well, that's life.
Orson?
I voted for number 3. I think that she has a cool look about her that a pro would have to have, and that she could hold her breath for a long time.
And Betsy?
Well, I voted for number 1 because she speaks with a slight accent, and I would say that Lauren might be Scandinavian, and to me she looks Scandinavian.
All right. Well-reasoned, interesting decisions. Panel, your votes are all in. Now let's find out. I'm very curious to find out who got the most votes from the studio audience. Now, our audience out there voted for number 1, and quite strongly for number 1. 46 votes out of 100. Okay. Here we go. Will the real Evelyn Boren please stand up? Fooled everybody except one, except one in the studio audience. Eh? Now, Evelyn's baby daughter, by the way, is very cute. We happen to have a picture of Evelyn with her mama underwater. Can we see that picture? Can you see that? Evelyn, how old is the baby in that picture?
She was 9 months when that picture was taken.
9 months? How old was she when she first went underwater?
I started her at 2 months in the bathtub and 4 months in the swimming pool.
Good heavens. All right. Okay, let's find out who the other lovely young ladies are. Number 1 got 3 votes, including the audience vote. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Heide Beste, and I work for reservations in British Overseas Airways.
And number 3, you got 1 vote. How about you?
My name is Joey Addison, and I'm a bunny at the New York Playboy Club.
All right, that means there were 3 incorrect votes from the panel, plus 1 from our studio audience, which is a total of $400 for you ladies to divide. Thank you very much for being with us on To Tell the Truth. Let's meet our next team of challengers.
There are millions of children in this country who have been deserted by either their mothers or their fathers. Finding these runaway parents and reuniting them with their families is the difficult job of one of these 3 gentlemen. What is your name, please?
Solomon Z. Weiss. My name is Solomon Z. Weiss. My name is Solomon Z. Weiss.
We shall play our game with Mr. Solomon Z. Weiss in just a minute after this special word of interest. In your second set of envelopes while I read the statement. I, Solomon Z. Weiss, am Executive Director of the Family Location Service. It is our job to find husbands and wives who, for one reason or another, have deserted or become estranged from their families. Last year, we were involved with over 1,100 of these cases. Some 9 million women and children in this country are the victims of desertion. Last year alone, aid to children whose parents had deserted them ran to over $900 million. The basic purpose of our organization is to reunite families whenever possible. And I'm proud to say that the Family Location Service is the only agency of its kind in the world. Signed, Solomon Z. Weiss. We'll continue this game with Solomon Z. Weiss in just a moment after this message. And for those of you who tune in a little late, I want to say that Bud Collier is not feeling too well today. We hope he's going to be back with us by tomorrow or Monday. The panel, these three gentlemen claim to be Solomon Z. Weiss. An audience thinks you're going to be asked to vote later on for the real person. Keep your eyes and ears open. Let's begin the questioning with Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number 3, do you think that children are better off with 2 parents who don't get along or 1 parent when there's peace in the home?
I would suggest 1 parent.
Thank you. Well, number 1, if somebody deserts deserts his children or her children, how can you talk that person into coming back and living with the spouse and the children if he wasn't happy there in the first place?
Well, we'll find out why he left.
Oh, you do family counseling, in other words.
A certain amount.
Thank you. Number 2, could you tell me what Parents Without Partners is?
Number 2. Parents without partners?
Yeah.
Where one is deserted, or one is divorced, or one has died.
Thank you.
Orson?
Number 3, are you interested in finding the estranged spouse and arranging a financial contribution?
Yes, sometimes.
Is that the primary thing, or is it to really get them to come back and sit around drinking a can of beer and watching TV at night with their shoes off, like you used to, which is why she drove him out in the first place?
Yes, to try to make a happy at home.
I see, all right. Number 1, now, this $900 million, who lays this out? Are you talking about relief, or...
Is that the government of the United States.
In what way do they lay it out? In
Well,
relief
aid to
payments?
dependent children.
Aid to dependent children?
That's right.
Through relief payments at the local level?
Through relief payments at the local level, yes.
Betsy Palmer.
Number 2, does this help that you give to people include unwed mothers?
No.
Number 1, does your department have anything to do with young ladies who have children that do not have spouses?
Yes.
It does. Number 3, when a husband has left his family and doesn't desire to return, what do you say to him?
We try to find out the reasons first for the leaving and try to effect some sort of reconciliation if possible.
Is there such a point in question of maybe forcing them to return to help support?
Yes, support is mandatory in certain conditions.
Tom Poston?
Thank you, Mark. Number 2, can you force them to come back if they're out of the state?
No, you can't force them, but there are some states which allow extradition.
For this particular thing, to
bring them back.
Well, number 1, I'm very interested in the way you go about changing the attitudes. What do you do to talk a fella who's left his family into coming back and living with them?
Is that me, number 1?
Yes, please.
Well, we try to make contact with the missing person or the disappearing person and find out the causes. And we also try to find out from the deserted spouse how she sees the point, how she sees herself.
All right, panel. It's time to vote now. I think it's a very difficult choice myself.
I do, too.
I wouldn't know who to vote for. Without consultation, please mark your ballots. And audience, once again, it's time for you to vote on your little voting contraptions. So when I say vote, select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote. Okay, your votes have been registered, and now let's see how the panel votes. Are you registered there, Tom? How did you vote, please?
I finally chose number 3. He didn't seem to be taking, I'm sure he takes his job very seriously, but he didn't seem to be taking this interrogation terribly seriously, and why should he? He knows all the answers.
All right. Peggy Cass.
Well, I voted for number 3. He seemed to have a very pleasant, jovial personality, which is what it would take to have some guy that deserted his wife and 10 kids to come back home again. The Finks.
Orson.
I don't know. There's 2 sides to every story, Peggy. I voted for number 1. I think he looks efficient, trustworthy. He looks a little like Mr. Keene, tracer of lost persons.
I remember that show very well. And Betsy, your vote, please.
And I voted for number 1, too, and it was because when he was standing up on the platform, his trousers looked as though he sat down more than the other men did, and so maybe he wasn't so nervous.
All right, sir, you're picked on the basis of shiny pants. We'll see how our audience voted and meet the real Solomon Z. Weiss in just a minute after this word of interest. We're evenly divided, as a matter of fact, by a left and a right. Down the other end, Tom and Peggy are for number 3, and Orson and Betsy are for number 1. Now, let's see who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 3 by 55 votes out of 100. Very good. Now let's find out which of these three gentlemen indeed heads the family location service. So will the real Solomon Z. Weiss please stand up? Thank you. Incidentally, the Family Location Service is a beneficiary of the Federation of Jewish Philanthropies of New York. And now, let's find out who the other gentlemen are. Number two, will you tell us who you really are and what you do?
My name is Ralph Cohen. I'm sales manager for the Pacific Bag and Burlap Company in New York.
And number three, you got 2 votes from the panel and you fooled the audience. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Sidney Epstein, and I'm an executive with the Columbia Cement Company in Brooklyn, manufacturers of adhesives.
Well, gentlemen, you got 2 incorrect votes from the panel, plus 1 from our studio audience. A total of $300 for you to divide. It was a very interesting spot, and thank you very much for being with us on To Tell the Truth. We shall return in just a moment after this message from Bristol Myers. Okay, panel, you were marvelous today. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much. And so until tomorrow, this is Mark Goodson sitting in for Bud Collier, and as he does, reminding you to tell the truth.
This portion of To Tell the Truth was brought to you by Neat Prolong, the floor wax made to be washed with detergent. To Tell the Truth was a Mark Goodson, Bill Cotton production. Johnny Olson speaking. The program was pre-recorded.
Ladies and gentlemen, from New York City, Gary Moore.
And welcome to a nautical and who knows, perhaps somewhat naughty edition of To Tell the Truth. Our first guest is a cruise director, and this cruise director has a great deal to say about the goings-on luxury liners and the seafaring folk who love to float about the ocean blue. We'll find out more about them after we meet our entirely proper panel here on To Tell the Truth.
Gene Rayburn.
I want to tell you, I've been on ocean cruises, and I didn't run into any of this stuff. And either it didn't happen or I didn't get my share. I'm not sure which it is. But in any event, let us now meet our cruise director.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
Number 2.
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
Number 3.
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
And your job, landlubbers, is to locate the real Geraldine Saunders, and here is her salty spiel. I, Geraldine Saunders, am the world's only female cruise director on a luxury liner. For the past 7 years, I've devoted 19 hours a day, 7 days a week, to making people happy, both on shipboard and in different ports of call. I've taught dancing, run bingo games, conducted charm courses, even acted as the ship's unofficial psychiatrist and matchmaker. Ah, yes, matchmaker. The wild, deliciously wicked world of the luxury liner invariably brings out the romance in one's soul. I've written a book about my life as a cruise director, in which I reveal everything from how to handle Godzillas to why Christmas cruises are the bane of our existence. My saucy book is titled The Love Boats. And it is signed Geraldine Saunders. And I love the blurb up here from the review from the Los Angeles Times. Exotic ports and erotic games on a sea of sun, sex, and booze.
Boy. Ship ahoy.
And by the way, I've been asked to say this book has been bought for television by the wonderful world of Disney. No, actually, it has been bought for television for an NBC movie, and we'll be right back. Three very easy-to-look-at ladies, all of whom claim to be Geraldine Saunders, a cruise director on a luxury liner. And let's start the questioning, please, with Bill Cullen.
Number two, for the sake of semantics, just to get it out of the way, what are Godzillas?
Godzillas are usually a man or a woman, or can be a group of people who are the worst passengers. A cruise staff get together and decide who are the biggest complainers, and we call them Godzillas.
And number one, the Los Angeles Review mentioned the erotic games in the book. What are some of these erotic games you play on your tours?
Well, we play bingo.
Oh boy.
The priest calls out dirty numbers.
Friends across the land, Gary Moore said that. All you St. Michael. What, number three, if I may change the subject briefly, these Christmas cruises that are the bane of your existence, what happens on a Christmas cruise?
Well, we always seem to get all the lonely, sort of misfit people who are usually not too happy at home at family.
Well, number three, you do more than play bingo, don't you?
I'm sorry, we got ourselves a buster there. We're going, please, to Kitty.
Thank you. Number one, how do you get a job like this?
Well, I went to college at Cornell, and I was in the hotel school of management. Then for a summer, I got a job on a ship as a hostess.
I see.
I did such a good job, I got a fabulous offer as a cruise director.
Thank you. Number two, do you get any sleep on these cruises? What are your hours?
Well, you have to sleep very quickly because you work late and get up very early in the morning.
Number three, how do you make matches?
Oh, you just, by instinct, really.
Put people together?
Yes, absolutely.
Number two, do you have to fend off fellas yourself? You look very attractive. You all three do. How do you fend off the fellas?
Well, usually, I'm too busy to be, I just
You're moving constantly.
I'd say I'd like to, but I'm too busy.
Oh, I see. Would that work? No. Number one, when you get on the cruise and you look over the passenger list, do you decide who should be together and who should not be together?
Well, sometimes I make mental notes, but many times people will approach me.
Oh, and ask you for somebody?
Oh, yes, will ask me.
And from Kitty, please, we go down to Gene Rayburn.
Yes, you've been everywhere, eh? Number two, how far do you go?
Well,
I mean, where do you go to the Caribbean only?
Depending on what what ship I'm working on.
Yeah.
So,
What is your line, number two?
I'm presently working for Princess Cruises.
Yes. And number three, do you agree with number two's definition of a Godzilla?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And what line do you work for?
I work for Princess Lines also.
And what boat have you been on specifically?
Oh, it's been the Island Princess, the Sea Princess out of Los Angeles.
And number one, have you ever gone to Europe or the Mediterranean?
No.
No.
Not with the Princess Lines.
Oh, you're all with the Princess Lines?
Yes.
Well, I knew a princess once, but that's another story. Have you ever officiated at a marriage, number one?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have.
And who performs the ceremony?
Well, the captain does, but it used to be legal. It is no longer legal for the captain to perform a ceremony. He will do it, but usually the couple is married before they get onto the ship.
Yeah. Number two, do you agree?
Oh, ready, little buzzer takes us on to Peggy.
Number two, can the captain marry you at the beginning of the cruise, and then at the end of the cruise you just say it was for funsies?
I'm afraid not.
Now, number three, don't women outnumber men on cruises?
Yes, they do.
Well, number one, doesn't that mean that the crew has an extraordinarily good time on a cruise?
It definitely does.
Thank you. Now, number two, do you get a nice stateroom, or are you down in the bowels of the ship by the winch or whatever it is?
No, they give me a very nice cabin.
1,112 of these leaflets were dropped from an airplane just to impress one girl.
The leaflets read, Mary Lee, I love you. Will you marry me? Steve. Now we'd like you to meet Steve. What is your name, please?
My name is Steve Musich.
My name is Steve Musich. My name is Steve Musich.
Only one of these gentlemen is the real Steve Musich. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, Kitty Carlisle, plus 100 people in our studio audience on To Tell the Truth. This portion of To Tell the Truth is brought to you by new Simonized non-scuff floor wax. It dries so bright it still looks wet. Host on To Tell the Truth, Bob Collier.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good afternoon, panel.
Good afternoon. Who's that with you there, bud?
Bright and shiny. Isn't she pretty?
Yes, indeed. I dropped
Mary Lee Gunnison is her name, and she's the subject of our first story, which she will tell in her own words. So, panel, listen carefully. Mary Lee?
I, Mary Lee Gunnison, was proposed to in a unique manner. My boyfriend and I were on a picnic when a plane flew over and dropped over 1,000 leaflets to the ground. I picked one up and read it. It said, Mary Lee, I love you. Will you marry me, Steve? When I stopped laughing, I gave him my answer. Signed, Mary Lee Gunnison.
And we'll start the questioning, if we may, with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you. Jim number 2. Oh, no, that's wrong. Are you Steve?
Yes.
Number 2? Because I didn't know. Maybe she said no and you're another guy. What made you dream up an idea like that?
Well, I got talked into it.
By whom?
It was a combination of friends. I'd been flying, and Mary Lee works with the airlines.
I think it's a marvelous idea. Number 3, did you consider any other ideas like skywriting or anything like that?
I considered skywriting, but since my financial budget was low, they get quite a bit of money to do that
Number
type
1,
of
what
thing.
did it cost you to pull the whole stunt off?
Cost me about $65.
Did she say yes on the spot as soon as she stopped laughing, or did she think it over?
She didn't think it over. She said yes in about 5 minutes.
She realized you loved her. Well, I think it's sensational. Number 2, now, did you get married shortly after that?
We're not married.
You're not married. So...
Just engaged.
Yeah. You're going to have to drop some more leaflets.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 1, I'm a little confused. Mary Lee said she was on a picnic with her boyfriend. Was that you?
Yes, I'm one.
And number 2, then you had someone else drop the leaflets out of the plane.
Yes.
Oh, and so number 3, that's how you knew exactly where to drop them.
I don't understand.
Well, I mean, you knew exactly where you'd be, so they dropped the leaflets.
Oh, definitely,
where
yes.
she'd
This was
see
all
them.
prearranged with the pilot.
I get it. Now, number 1, why are you waiting to get married?
Why are we waiting? Well, it takes a certain amount of time to arrange things.
Number 2, you don't think she's sort of weakening in her resolve?
Not at all.
Good for you. Number 3, where do you live?
Chicago.
You both live in Chicago?
That's correct.
Tom Poston.
Chicago, yay! How wide an area did the leaflets cover, number 1, when they were being dropped?
Well, they went over, they covered quite a bit of the sky. In fact, most of them landed in the bay.
Chicago's a windy city. What bay, number 1?
San Francisco Bay.
San Francisco Bay. That is wide from Chicago. Where are you from, number 2?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, cut it out, number 2. Where did you do your dropping?
In Fairfax, Virginia.
How did the pilot know that the leaflets were going to drop on you or on Mary Lee?
I thought for a while he didn't. He made 5 passes. We had an orange blanket preset, and the location was preset.
Well, I think it's terrific, but number 3, did Mary know this was going to happen?
No, she had no idea at all.
Oh, that's terrific. Congratulations, whoever.
Peggy Cass.
I think it's romantic and it's terrific to tell your children. But number 3, did you realize that, or Mary Lee, did you realize that you're marrying a terrific litter bug? Number 1, did you get any complaints about all these leaflets that are all over the place? Who picked them up? Did you get a stick with the nail at the end of it, or did you just forget it?
I forgot it.
Mary Lee who said yes.
You just forgot.
I should have picked them up, but Too many. I just
Of course, you
didn't.
couldn't go around swimming in the bay. And number two, who did the artwork on it? I mean, who made it up? This was pretty.
It was the printing company in Washington, Rapid Printing.
Did you design it?
No, the printers did.
You know, you didn't do very much. You didn't fly the plane. You didn't design the plane. All you did was dirty up the town. I said, Mary Lee, think about this. Number three, what do? Do you work for the airlines, too?
I'm a mechanical engineer.
See, you're very airlines-minded, you two.
And that's it. That's all the time we have. Time for you now to pick up your litter and mark your ballots, if you will. Mark them at once without change and without any consultation. And while you're doing that, of course, it's time for the studio audience to vote. On the voting machines in front of each of you, there are 3 buttons. When I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote. All right, that's recorded. Panel, for whom did you vote? Tom, what is your
Bud,
vote?
I was rude during Peggy's questioning, and I kept interrupting and talking all through. So I'd like to give her this time to give the reason why I voted for number 1. Peggy?
I don't know why you do anything.
Peggy Cass.
But you did talk all the time, and I was interested. I want to know more. I voted for number 2 because he has a very pixie quality, and I believe that he'd do it.
Orson.
I voted for number 1. They have the same smile, Terry Lee and he, and I think that even as people's dogs look like them, people's husbands look like them, too. My wife and I look alike, and I think they look
Are
alike.
you kidding? She's pretty.
She's kidding, Carlisle.
I voted for number 2 because obviously Mary Lee likes to laugh. And number 2 has a lot of humor, and I think they're going to get along just fine when they get around to it.
All right, let's find out who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 2. So, panel has voted, the audience has voted. Mary Lee, if you were voting, for whom would you be voting?
Well, I'd vote for number 1.
Mary Lee, for whom do you work?
I'm an airline hostess with TWA.
You plan to continue working for TWA after you get married?
Yes, I do.
When is the date of the wedding?
December 9th.
December 9th. Are we all invited?
Fine with me. I'll have to get a bigger church. Same date. Exactly.
On the steps of the White House?
Afraid not.
Well, it's a joy to have you here with us and to wish you the very best of everything in every way. God bless you. Number 2, what is your real name? What do you do, sir?
I'm Mark Mason, and I'm a general manager for American Children's Theater, producing the Toby Tyler Show.
And number 3, what is your name and what do you do, sir?
My name is John Stern. I'm president of David Eden Associates. We produce rock and roll records.
Well, in checking the score, we find there were 1, 2, 3 incorrect votes. 3 times $100 is $300. Ladies, rather lady and gentlemen, we thank you very much for gracing our show. Hope it was fun. Goodbye and God bless you. We'll meet our next team of challengers in a minute. But you know, there's usually a reason for not feeling well. Now, coming up next is one of the most unusual and fascinating stories we have ever presented on To Tell the Truth.
What is your name, please?
My name is John Carroll.
My name is John Carroll.
My name is John Carroll.
We'll learn more about John Carroll in just a minute. Now, this word from Nestle's. Please open up your second envelope now, if you will, and follow along with me. I, John Carroll, used to be a probation officer for the Bronx Children's Court in New York City. 15 years ago, I handled a fascinating case. For over a year, I tried to help a fatherless 12-year-old truant by taking him away from his mother and placing him in an institution where he could receive the love and understanding he craved and the proper psychiatric help he needed so badly. I encountered a series of problems in trying to place the boy, And before I was able to solve them, his mother took him out of New York State. If I had been given time to help that unfortunate 12-year-old child, the entire course of history might have been changed. The young man's name was Lee Harvey Oswald. Signed, John Carroll.
This portion of To Tell the Truth was brought to you by new Simonized non-scuff floor wax. It dries so bright it still looks wet.
Panel, these three gentlemen, as you heard, claim to be John Carroll. An audience, you'll be voting again for the real one. Listen carefully to the questioning, if you will, which we will begin with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty.
Thank you, Bud. By the affidavit number 1, it seemed that you had real feeling for this child. How did you happen to meet him?
He was referred by the court. He came in for truancy.
I see. Number 2, do you believe that this whole terrible chain of events was caused by his desire to be noticed or to be loved or what?
I believe so.
To be noticed?
I do believe so.
Number 3, what were the problems you encountered that you couldn't place him before his mother took him away?
Well, the usual problems that you find, I'm trying to get him into one of the schools, and you have to have a series of recommendations to the judges, and all these have to be approved.
Number 1, are you still a probation officer?
No, I'm not.
What do you do now?
I'm a lawyer.
Tom Poston.
Number 2, in view of the consequences of this boy's life, would you say that you have encountered others with somewhat the same pattern, psychological patterns that he had?
Yes, this pattern is not entirely unfamiliar.
Number 3, have you been able to help some of these boys in a way that would prevent disastrous circumstances from happening in their lives?
Not as much as we'd like to, that's about as simple
What
as
do
I
you
can
do,
say.
thank you, what do you do for them, number 1?
I mean, which boys are you speaking about?
Well, potentially dangerous boys.
You try to get to them early to forestall anything that might happen in the future.
How do you do that, number 2?
We counsel them. We refer them for counseling. For example, we might send them, as we did in this case, to youth house. We might, well, in this case also, of course, we referred him to, we attempted to have him institutionalized, but we weren't successful.
Thank you.
Did Lee Harvey Oswald have any sisters or brothers?
He had an older half-brother, and he had an older brother, I believe, by the same father.
Well, number 2, did they live with him and his mother in New York?
No, they did not.
Number 1, was he a naturally bright boy or was he slow?
Well, I think he was an average, likable boy, not a bright boy or slow.
Orson Bean.
Number 2, it seems to me that for practical purposes, psychiatry will never be able to prevent things like this, because it's all hindsight to say that he would have been better off in the institution, isn't it?
To a certain extent, yes.
I mean, number 3, normally one would say that if a kid's mother wants him, he must be better off with the mother, because you don't get much love and understanding in an institution, do you?
You're absolutely right, and most of the times we do approach it that way.
Yeah.
But in the long run, when you find out that you're not getting anywhere there...
Right. Number 1, what do you think in the case of a Richard Speck or the guy on the Texas Tower? These are all comparable types to Oswald, potentially explosive people who seem calm on the outside. Is there any way that a doctor can, or a psychologist can spot this, and if so, what should be done?
Well, I think it's very difficult. Actually, there has to be some manifestation of an early childhood.
Legally, you can't put somebody away just because you figure something might happen in the future, right?
Sorry, that's all we have time for, but there would be a lot more, should be a lot more time for a lot more questioning because it is interesting. However, mark your ballots, if you will, please, panel, at once. And audience, once again, it's time for you to vote with your voting machines. When I say vote, as before, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote. Okay, those votes are registered. As to the panel, Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I think we've been duly chastened by this spot, the great tragedy that surrounded this boy, but I voted for number 2 in spite of the fact that he seemed almost too much like a psychologist with his careful answers, weighing the pros and cons of everything, but I voted for number 2 finally.
Peggy.
Well, it was very hard for me, but I voted for number 3. I don't know why. If I were going to be counseled, I'd like to talk to number 3.
Orson Bean.
Well, we got off the track a little in talking about psychologists because actually the gentleman was a probation officer, and I voted for number 1 because he has a bit of the look of the gumshoe about him to me.
Kitty Carlisle.
I voted for number 3. I thought number 1 was a little too young to have been counseling this boy. I can hardly bear to say his name. And number 2 seemed a little bit too professional. So I voted for number 3.
Very well, we'll find out how our audience voted and meet the real John Caro in just a minute. Now, this message. Thank you very much, panel.
Thank you, Bud.
See you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's the brightest spot in my day, the fact that I'll see you again tomorrow. See you again tomorrow, too, I trust. And in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth.
The biggest event in blackjack is back, Jack. GSN presents the World Series of Blackjack and all new season.
I'm so incredibly good at this game.
Because they're playing for a king's ransom, we're bringing back the Burger King Power Chip. The World Series of Blackjack and all new season tomorrow, 11 p.m., 10 Central on GSN.
Ladies and gentlemen, from New York City, Joe Garagiola.
Thank you very much. And welcome to Tell the Truth. Thank you, Bill Wendell. Hey, if, as the song says, the hills are alive today with the sound of music, our stage is alive today with the lady who was the inspiration for the great Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. And we're going to meet the Baroness von Trapp right after we say hello to our panel here on To Tell the Truth.
Here is Bill Cullen. Kitty Carlisle. Nipsey Russell. And Peggy Cass.
Yes, sir, The Sound of Music. That was one of the great ones. I'll tell you, I really enjoyed that. Everybody, I'm sure, has seen that. Nipsey is with us. He gave us a thought yesterday. I'm not going to ask him for a thought. I'm going to tell him to think about it, and he'll spring one on us before this show is over.
Right.
Although, I tell you, I don't know how you can come up with them. You've been so busy as the co-star of The Wiz.
Yeah.
A great movie, yeah. Sure. All right. Now, I'll tell you what we're going to do right now. We're going to meet the lady whose life was full of the sound of music.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Maria von Trapp.
Number 2.
I am Maria von Trapp.
Number 3.
My name is Maria von Trapp.
Listen carefully now to the inspirational story of Maria von Trapp. I, Maria von Trapp, am the real-life Maria in the popular musical and motion picture, The Sound of Music. As you may recall, at the time of Adolf Hitler, my husband, my children, and I fled our native Austria. As the Trapp family singers, we then traveled the world singing the a cappella music of the 16th and 17th centuries, as well as the folk songs of different lands. After settling in Vermont, for years we conducted a summer music camp. Now our lodge is a Christmas visitor's paradise. A word concerning the two actresses who portrayed me. While I thought they were both excellent, I tried desperately, but unsuccessfully, to convince both Mary Martin and Julie Andrews not to make Maria so ladylike. Signed, Baroness Maria von Trapp. We'll have some questions from our panel, and we'll have some answers from that side right after we watch these commercials. Today is graced with three lovely ladies, all claiming to be the Baroness Maria von Trapp, the head of the Trapp family singers and the inspiration for Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical, The Sound of Music. And we're going to start this round with our own little songbird,
Thank
Kitty
you. Well,
Carlisle.
whoever you are, I admire you enormously. You've done a wonderful job, and you've given us a lovely musical. Number one, did Rodgers and Hammerstein know you before?
The life of this Air Force pilot was saved by one of these three men. What is your name, please?
My name is Glennis Gordon. My name is Glennis Gordon. My name is Glennis Gordon.
Only one of these men is the real Glennis Gordon. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Dina Merrill, Johnny Carson, and Peggy Cass on To Tell the Truth. And here sitting in for Bud Collier is the star of Play Your Hunch, Merv Griffin.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. That's very nice. Good evening to all of you. To Tell the Truth is brought to you by Salem Cigarettes. And may I say how nice it is to be back here with all of you again after my vacation. And may I thank Bud Collier for substituting for me for the past 50 weeks.
With you when you...
No, I didn't.
When you rescued them.
Johnny Carson.
Thank you, Merv. Number three, are you a lieutenant also, or did you just get a bad uniform?
A little New York rain did it, I think.
Is that your... what rank are you, sir?
First lieutenant.
First lieutenant. Number two, is there a regular helicopter school?
Yes, sir. Helicopter school is the next phase in pilot's training after receiving your wings. You can specialize in copters or go into fixed wing.
I see. Number one, what kind of jet was it that you saw crash?
It was an F-89.
F-89. Number three, very quickly, point to 9 o'clock. Number one, very quickly, point to 3 o'clock.
Peggy Cass?
Number two, right away, point to 12 o'clock. Number two, what nationality was Sikorsky?
Igor Sikorsky is actually an American. I believe he's a Russian who became American.
Number three, where is the Air Force Academy?
The Air Force Academy is in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Number one, is a helicopter used in field artillery?
Not in the Air Force.
There's the voting bell. Panel, it's time now to vote. So, without consultation, mark your ballots and select number one, number two, or number three.
Tough one, all right.
Come on, panel, mark those ballots. All done? All right, Tom Poston, for whom did you vote?
I think we got a tough one this time, Merv. I voted for number one, because all of the answers seem to me to be good ones. The boys, as usual, are very beautifully briefed again. I forget the name of the guy that does that for good some time, but number one had a trace of an accent that seemed familiar to me, and don't ask me what that means.
Oh, I won't ask you.
A lot of flyers spoke like that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Dina, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number two, Merv, because of something he said very quickly. He said fixed wing, and it sounded terribly authentic to me.
Johnny Carson?
Well, all the gentlemen seemed very well informed. Tom is a former flyer. I voted for one. I voted, before Tom put his thing up. I want to be honest about it.
And Peggy?
I think number one.
Well, I don't know anything about flying, so I voted for number three.
Now, don't forget, of course, the team of challengers get $250 for every incorrect vote, and the votes are all in. The minds are definitely made up. And I would like to formally introduce, if I may, right now, the man who was the pilot of that burning jet. He is in our audience, Air Force Captain Clyde Falls. Captain, would you come up, please? Now, Captain, you're going to help us out here. Captain Falls, I wonder if you'd be kind enough to go over behind the gentleman and show us which one of these fellas is the real Lieutenant Glennis Gordon. Captain, I guess you're pretty happy that Lieutenant Gordon was around that night.
Well, you're right, Merv. I had good reason to be glad that Glenn was around. Of course, we're always glad that these boys in the fire suppression units of our air rescue service are around at the bases. And I had very good reason that night to be glad that Glenn was around.
You know, Merv, it's awful nice to see a hot pilot who really is a hot pilot.
Well, we're very proud to have you both here tonight. Excellent representatives of a fine Air Force. And thank you, Captain Falls, very much.
Thank you very much.
And now, number 2, would you tell us, sir, who you are and what you really do?
Yes, sir. My name is Jack McGann, and I'm a salesman. I ordinarily sell at a higher percentage than 1 out of 4 for NBC here in New York.
Attaboy. And number 3, how about you, sir?
My name is Malcolm Dooley. I'm a stockbroker in the Time and Life Building branch of Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Benner, and Smith.
And I might add that Malcolm Dooley and I have known each other for some time. You will all be interested in knowing that as a member of the Tom Dooley Foundation, Malcolm Dooley is continuing on with the great work of his brother, the late Dr. Tom Dooley. Nice having you here. Now, there have been a total of 2 incorrect votes for the total sum of $500 from Salem. Our thanks and good luck. And gentlemen, on the way out, there's a carton of Salems for each one of you. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thank you.
Let's have our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Betty Chadwick.
My name is Betty Chadwick. My name is Betty Chadwick.
Panel, please listen while I read this affidavit. I, Betty Chadwick, am, as far as I know, the only full-time television news cameraman in the business. The equipment I use weighs almost as much as I do. I have a police radio monitor in my home, which helps me in covering local events such as floods, mine disasters, and bootleg raids. I also covered the Indianapolis 500 auto race, the Miss America pageant, both 1960 political conventions, and the last presidential inauguration. Much of my film appears on coast-to-coast television news broadcasts. Signed, Betty Chadwick.
Get in touch with Game Show Network. Log on to our website and play our games or email us your questions and comments. It's www.gameshownetwork.com. Game Show Network.
Panel, these 3 ladies claim to be Betty Chadwick, television news camerawoman. So we'll start the cross-examination with Peggy Cass.
Number 2, what is Magnum?
I don't believe I'm familiar with that term.
Number 3, what is Magnum? I have never used it. I see. Number 1, do you know what Magnum is?
Champagne, I guess.
Oh, that's nice. Well, number 2, it says bootleg raids. I thought those were over. I mean, like Prohibition's been over so long. What bootleggers do you catch?
Well, this is selling whiskey and beer without a permit.
Oh, like moonshine.
Well, no, not moonshine. Actually, it's selling without a permit.
Oh, I see. Number 3, who made the keynote speech at the Democratic Convention? Now, that I should remember, and I don't. I'm so very busy doing my own work that I don't pay too much attention to. Number 1, do you usually wear those little suits when you go out to take your pictures?
Certainly do.
You do?
Tom Poston?
It is my turn. Listen, I've got to find out about that, what is the name of that rig, number 3, that camera rig?
Oh, that's an Oricon.
Do you happen to know who invented it?
Well, no, I don't, but Mitchell, it's a Mitchell lens.
I'd like to ask Peggy Cass a question. Could I?
Sure.
No. I'll ask you later. Number 2, what happens to be the difference between bootlegging, which is against the law, and making your own booze, which you drink yourself?
Well, they're both illegal, but bootlegging is just selling ordinary liquor without a permit.
Thank you. Number 1, do you agree with that about illegal manufacture of booze for your own consumption?
Yes, I do.
You're an agreeable girl. Thank you.
Dina Merrill?
Number 3,
Do you use film or tape in the camera that you have?
I use film.
I see. Is that usual? Do you do all newscasts on the spot with film?
Yes, I do.
I see. Number 2, who is Miss America?
Miss America, I don't remember her name, but I believe it was Miss North Carolina.
Thank you. Number 1, who was Nixon's press secretary? Do you remember in the last?
I don't remember that.
Number 3, do you?
I honestly don't recall.
Number 2?
I'm sorry.
Number 1, do you remember who made the nominating speech for Kennedy?
I do not.
Number 2?
No, I'm sorry.
Johnny Carson?
Number 3, who's head of CBS News? Or who was head of CBS News? Do you know the head of CBS Television News?
No, I wouldn't consider that were something that I had to know, really.
Number 2, do you know the head of NBC News?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Number 1, do you know the head of ABC News? Now for a radio question. Number 2, you work in New York City?
No, I don't. I work in Indiana.
Well,
There's the ringing of the bell, which closes this round, and it's time again to vote.
just as well.
No consultation, panel. Just mark your ballots there and select number 1, number 2, or number 3. And not one has marked his ballot.
No, it's tough. Again.
Yeah.
Giddy up there. All right.
It's tough again.
Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 3. I couldn't make up my mind which of the ladies to vote for. And to be honest with you, I felt so bad for number 3 when she had to say, listen, I don't know, and I'm sorry, but I don't know, that I just voted for her anyway.
Dina?
Well, I went for number 2 again, Merv. She had kind of an eager look in the eye that I think people after news and things on the spur of the moment have.
Johnny?
This is very tough tonight.
Yeah.
I voted for number 3. I like green suits, but she didn't know who the head of CBS News is, and they weren't sure for a while, so I guess for number 3.
Peggy Cass?
Well, I voted for number 3 because when she said she didn't use Magnum, at least I figured she knew what it was. It's a news service of pictures.
All right, and the votes are all in, and your minds are made up, I can tell. Now we'll see which one of these 3 ladies is the real television news camera woman. So will the real Betty Chadwick please stand?
Oh.
Thank you, Betty. And now, number 1, will you tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Mary Ronan. I live in Weston, Connecticut, and I'm a commercial artist.
Thank you. And number 3, who are you?
My name is Dorothy Thompson. I live in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and I teach 3rd grade in the Midland Park school system.
Well, there have been 3 incorrect votes, which means a nice total of $750 from Salem. Thanks and good luck, and on your way out, ladies, a carton of Salem's for each of you. A nice spot. Thank you so much. Hey, here's a good question following that particular spot. Do you like to take pictures? Well, we're about to show you one of those scenes that just makes a camera buzz for me, too. Now let's have our 3rd team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Carlton Nash.
My name is Carlton Nash.
My name is Carlton Nash.
Follow along, panel, if you will. I, Carlton Nash, sell dinosaur footprints. I own and operate Dinosaur Land, which consists of a park, a museum, and a quarry, which contains the largest known bed of dinosaur tracks in the world. More than 100 million years ago, this quarry was a watering place and breeding ground for these prehistoric monsters. Their footprints are clearly imprinted in some 50 layers of shale. So far, I have mined and sold several thousand dinosaur prints, varying from 2 to 23 inches in length. People use them in terraces and fireplaces, and also as paperweights or just conversation pieces. To the best of my knowledge, I am the only person in the world selling authentic dinosaur tracks to the general public. Signed, Carlton Nash. There's such a temptation to say dinosaur. All right, these three gentlemen all claim to be Carlton Nash, who sells dinosaur footprints. And panel, to help you in your questioning, you've seen the rather large dinosaur footprint here on the floor, and I have here a little teeny tiny one from a not-too-well dinosaur, which I'll pass along to Peggy Cass, and you can examine it as you question. We'll start this round with Johnny Carson.
Number 2, are you the fellow who called me on the phone the other night and asked me if I wanted to buy a set of dinosaur footprints? I get all kinds of calls. Number 3, what's the difference, can you tell me the difference between Neolithic and Neanderthal?
No, sir.
Number 2, can you tell me the difference between Neolithic and Neanderthal?
No, sir.
Number 1, you...
Cannot.
All right, number 1, why did dinosaurs die out? Why did they die out? Why did they become extinct?
Well, that was over 100 million years ago.
Well, I knew you weren't there, sir, but I just wanted to... I just wondered if you knew why they went.
It's a long time to live.
Yes, yes.
Peggy Cass.
Number 2, are there any traces of dinosaurs in the La Brea tar pits?
I don't think so.
Number 3, where are the La Brea tar pits?
I can't tell you.
Number 1, where are the La Brea tar pits?
I don't know.
Number 2, where are the La Brea tar pits?
California.
Number 3, did the dinosaurs lay eggs or, like, just have babies?
They laid eggs.
They laid eggs?
They laid eggs.
Number 1, were they smooth or furry? Not the eggs, the dinosaurs.
Very smooth.
They were smooth.
Tom Poston.
Thank you. Number 2, do dinosaurs have, like, fingerprints?
I don't think so.
It'd be hard to tell a crooked dinosaur. I guess you wouldn't be able to catch him. Number 3, well, I lay eggs too. Number 3, if these things are in 50 layers of shale, how do you know when you're coming to one and you don't want to crack it and break it when you're looking for them?
Well, the shale is in layers from 1/4 of an inch thick to 4 inches thick, and you can see the layers.
From above, you can see 50 layers?
No, the way we found out there's 50 layers, we cut down through. How do we know there's 50 layers? We didn't.
That's right.
Well, we found out the name of the guy that's been briefing you. It's Wally Stone. I just want everybody... Is that right?
No.
Oh, it's not right. I'm sorry.
Dina?
Number 3, to continue with Tom's questions. So you cut the layers down, but then how do you see the footprint if it's a layer like this?
Well, by peeling off the layers, you find them.
You just keep peeling down till you come to a footprint.
Really?
Oh. Number 2, I always thought dinosaurs were great big things. How come we get something like this?
It was sick.
Well, I guess there were small ones, too.
You guess. You weren't there either 100 minutes ago.
A long time ago.
All right, there goes the bell, and the round is certainly over. It's time to vote. So please mark your ballots for number 1, number 2, or number 3. Oh, you marked quickly that time. Dina, you're a little behind there.
Yes, I am.
Don, from whom did you vote?
Well, that's a 2. I should say that. I don't know why I made it. It's an older 2. That's why I did it that way.
Dina?
I voted for 2, too. Because I voted for 2 all evening, and I really have no idea. I thought I might as well stick to my luck.
Johnny?
This hasn't been our best night, has it, so far? I don't know. I voted for number 3. He knows the dinosaurs come from eggs, which they do. You know,
Well, I
very
vote...
large eggs.
Well, I didn't know that, but I voted for number 2 because of the La Brea tar pits. It's a place I've always loved.
We call that home.
I think like a couple of days there.
I got a picture of a dinosaur sitting on one of those eggs, hatching them. Well, the votes are all in and the minds are made up, so now we'll certainly find out which one of these three gentlemen is guilty here, the real expert on dinosaur footprints. So will the real Carlton Nash please stand? Yes, Tina.
I'd like to know where Dinosaur Land is.
Well, just keep the record straight. Carlton Nash's Dinosaur Land is in South Hadley, Massachusetts. But you did very well with this one, if you'll notice. You must know your dinosaurs. There's only been one incorrect vote, which means a total of $250 from Salem. Number one, who are you, sir, and what do you do?
My name is Louis Van Orden, and I manufacture turkey lacing kits.
I hate to ask the obvious question, sir, but what is a turkey lacing kit?
You have to stuff a bird.
Yes.
No, I don't.
You have to lace him up to keep the stuffing in.
I see.
You're not a gourmet?
I'd love to talk to you sometime about what you have to take out of those turkeys. I understand there are all kinds of things in there.
Wonderful things.
Well, maybe you can work out a packaging deal with the dinosaur expert here.
But we're thinking of.
Number three, who are you, sir, and what do you do?
My name is Merle Moore, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist minister.
Thank you very much. Of course, you do have a total of $250 from Salem, our thanks. And on your way out, gentlemen, there's a carton of Salems for each one of you. Good evening to you. They'll have to come back here.
I was going to keep it.
Oh,
well, then maybe it's just as well.
I don't know why you're all complaining tonight. They weren't that tough.
I was wrong about the name. It's Wooly Stern.
Wooly Stern.
Wooly Stern.
He's the guilty one. Why you're all kind of unhappy?
They were hard tonight.
They were hard.
I think on an average you did very well here tonight.
I got beat. Only got one right, and that was a fluke.
Thank you, Tom Poston. Thank you, Dina Merrill. Johnny Carson, our thanks to you, and Peggy Cass.
Thank you, Merv.
And thank
nice
you all.
to have you here.
It's nice to be here, and I'll be here again next week.
Good.
This is Merv Griffin saying good night from Salem Cigarettes, and we'll see you all next week on To Tell the Truth. Good night.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
This is Harry Morgan. Confucius said harmony begins in the household. Of course, he was never a guest of Pete and Gladys. Next, on most of these CBS television stations.
To Tell the Truth has been brought to you tonight by Salem, the cigarette that refreshes your taste. Johnny Olson saying goodnight for To Tell the Truth. This program was pre-recorded.
What is your name, please?
My name is Elsa Lanchester.
Today, Elsa Lanchester, together with two imposters, will try to fool this panel. Kitty Carlisle, Orson Dean, Peggy Cass, and Tom Poston. It's all going to happen right here on To Tell the Truth. This portion of To Tell the Truth is brought to you by VO5 Hair Color.
It was scary.
And now here's our host on To Tell the Truth, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good afternoon.
Hey, Bud. Oh, yes, I agree. In front of you, before in front of you, of course, Elsa will be back later on in our program with two imposters to try to stump you brilliant people. But now, let's meet our first team of challengers.
One of these men traveled the entire length of South America on a bicycle. What is your name, please?
My name is Daniel Lackley.
My name is Daniel Lackley.
My name is Daniel Lackley.
My friends, in front of you will find these envelopes that I mentioned before, and the contents you have not as yet seen, but follow along with the one marked number 1. I, Daniel Lackley, pedaled a bicycle for 3 months, 4,000 miles across scorching deserts and over mountains from Argentina to Colombia, nearly the full length of South America. I washed my clothes in the rivers and slept by the side of the road, or several times in jailhouses as guest of the local police. I cooked my own meals from whatever was available. At one point, I pedaled 900 miles across a desert with only dry soup to eat. In Ecuador, I encountered scores of revolutionaries. All in all, however, the trip was marvelous, but it sure wrecked my bicycle. Signed, Daniel Lackley. Now we start the questioning with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you. Number 3, any place in South America you can find scores of revolutionaries, can't you?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Did you run into any bandits and things in the mountains of Ecuador or anywhere?
Well, in Ecuador specifically.
Yeah, well, where is that? Colombia, there's a lot of bandits, too, aren't there, up in the hills?
In Colombia, Bolivia.
Yeah, number 1, did you ever meet Juan Valdez?
No.
No, that's all right. Number 2, did you drink the water wherever you went?
Yes, just about.
Yeah, well, how long did it take you to get your stomach in the kind of cast iron condition that you could drink water in any part of a continent?
Still haven't yet.
You haven't yet?
No,
That could make you pedal fast right there. Number 3, when you went across the scorching desert, did that make you pedal fast, or did you have to go fast to keep the tires from burning up? Was it really that scorching?
No, I had to go pretty slow.
You did? Why? Because of exhaustion?
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 1, why did you do this?
More or less to consume some time.
Is that all? Number 2, what kind of a bicycle did you use?
American Schwinn, actually.
Number 3, do you think the English bicycles are better than ours?
I've never ridden an English bicycle.
Thank you. Number 2, what did you eat when you went across the desert?
Well, there it was mostly rice, potatoes you bring.
Number 3, where did you sleep in the desert?
By the side of the road.
And was it cold at night?
Well, I mainly spent the nights bicycle riding.
Number 1, how high is La Paz?
Tom Poston.
You may answer number 1, please.
I believe that's more than 1 mile high.
Well, number 2, why did you do this? Number 1 said it's just to kill time.
Well, I just finished up with the Peace Corps, and just coming back to the country, thought it'd be better to do it this way than fly.
I love the Peace Corps. I think it's the greatest thing we've done for centuries. Number 3, how did you manage repairs to your bicycle? I presume that you had some need for repairs.
Well, I had a patch kit, and I brought along a couple of extra inner tubes and a pump.
That's all? You had number 1, you had no mechanical repairs of any kind?
Well, there were some as necessary minor adjustments.
Tell me, number 1, did you have gears on your bicycle? Or?
No, I did not.
Didn't that make it kind of tough going up and down those hills?
Peggy Cass.
Number 2, did you go the whole 4,000 miles on just an extra set of inner tubes?
Oh, no, you wear out the bicycle tires as you go along.
How many pairs of tires did you wear out?
Gee. I'd say about 6 tires plus the 2.
Thank you. Number 1, how much is a set, an average price for a set of 28 tires, front and back? 28-inch bicycle tires.
Front and back.
Yeah, 2 tires.
In American money, about $1.50.
Oh, boy. Now, number 2, what is it that the natives of the Andes way up high chew to make them feel good?
I wasn't up there, but I believe it's peyote. I'm not
Thank
sure.
you.
That's it. Time to mark your ballot. So, chew over the answers that you got and mark them, if you will. Mark them now without change, without any consultation whatsoever. Just vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. Our team of challengers will, of course, receive $100 for each incorrect vote. Ballots all marked, panel? Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1. They're such clean-cut young men, I don't think any of them know how to tell a lie. For that reason, I believed number 1 and didn't believe 2 and 3.
Peggy Cass.
I voted for number 1 as well. I don't think they chew peyote there. I think that's a Mexican drink, chew.
Orson
I
Bean.
didn't vote for one because he said his bicycle had no gears, and I think that's ridiculous. You couldn't make that trip on one of those big, fat, flexible flyers with the tiger tail hanging off the back. You got to have a little... I voted for number 2 because he looks kind of, he looks wan.
You need a little,
pale and
need a little
wan.
zest when you go
It's
those.
the water, I
Yeah.
think. It's still...
Kitty.
I voted for number 1. I think number 2 certainly looks the part, and he has that visionary blue eye that would have led him to the Peace Corps, but I still think it's number 1.
Very well, there we have it. We'll find out which one in truth is Daniel Lackley in a minute.
A lesson for parents about the power.
Very well, my friends, the votes are all in, and as you well know, of course, Tom, Peggy, and Kitty all voted for number 1. Orson voted for number 2.
And wood again.
So let's see now, which of these 3 gentlemen in truth took a 4,000-mile trip on a bike? Will the real Daniel Lackley please stand up? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. What is your present occupation, Mr. Lackley?
I'm a branch representative for Household Finance Corporation.
And you anticipating another long trip?
Not at the present time.
Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Francis Brady, and I'm a computer consultant with Brandon Applied Systems.
Thank you, sir. And number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Joel Gerber. I'm a biology teacher at Russell Sage Junior High
School. Number 3 has a side job that I think is fascinating, too. Would you tell us about that?
Well, I work part-time during my summers as a freelance shepherd.
Freelance shepherd?
Yes.
Where do you shepherd?
Pardon?
Where do you do your shepherding?
Well, I originally learned in Greece, and now I'm developing a small trade around New York City.
Oh, are there many sheep around New York City to shepherd?
They're all a bunch of sheep. What do you mean? In checking the score, gentlemen, we find that there was only 1 incorrect vote, but that's still worth $100 to you, and we thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. Hope you enjoyed ours. Goodbye, and God bless you. Very well, panel, now we're going to play our celebrity version of To Tell the Truth. Seated to my left, as you can plainly see, is our next team of challengers, consisting of Elsa Lanchester and 2 imposters. We've hidden their faces for obvious reasons and will distort their voices for the same reasons. Electronically, you will hear them distorted through your headphones. Elsa is also wearing different clothing than she wore at the beginning of the program. Our guest today really needs no introduction. She's recognized instantly by anyone who has ever gone to the movies. She plays comedy, tragedy, farce. In fact, she plays anything, and with consummate skill. She also sings, which she did for 10 consecutive years at one theater in Los Angeles. And with her husband, Charles Lawton, she formed one of the great acting families of all time. Our guest today, Elsa Lanchester. We'll continue this game with Elsa Lanchester in half a minute after this message.
This portion of To Tell the Truth was brought to you by Clean Guard. The next portion of To Tell the Truth is brought to you by new Final Touch, fabric softener that whites up, brights up even difficult fabrics. And now, once again, here's your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you, Johnny. Panel, these 3 ladies all claim to be Elsa Lanchester. We'll start the questioning, if we may, with Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, what was the name of the play that you were in for 10 years in Los Angeles?
The Turnabout Theater.
Number 3, the Turnabout Theater. Number 1, what is your favorite animal?
A cat.
Number 2, where were you born?
London.
And number 3, what was the most important movie that you appeared in your opinion?
Henry VIII.
Thank you. That was a wonderful one. Number 1, why are you here in New York? Is there a special reason?
Charles had a collection of art, and it's going to Park Burnett.
Tom Poster.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Bud. Number 2, what are buskers?
Buskers?
Buskers.
Well, it's a form of makeup that one wears under one's costume.
Well, you know why I asked? Because I think the first time I ever heard of it, you played one. Did you ever play a busker, number one?
Yes.
Just a guess, I think. Number one, do you know what the Tales of Manhattan are?
There are stories of Manhattan.
Thank you.
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, which wife did you play in the life of Henry VIII?
The fifth wife,
What was your name?
Anna Cleves.
Thank you. Number 1, who was your leading man in the Beachcomber?
Charles Lawton.
And number 2, were you in a movie where you had to go out and tidy up the marshes?
Yes.
Number 3, what was the name of that movie where you tidied up the marshes? I've never forgotten.
Ladies in Retirement.
Thank you. Oh.
Orson Bean.
Now, number 3, let's get down to brass tacks here. I remember you as the Bride of Frankenstein, do I not?
Yes.
What was your hairdo, number 3, in that?
It was pulled upwards.
Pulled upwards and out in all directions, right, 3?
Yes.
Like an electric shock. Number 1, who made you in that picture?
Who made me?
Who made you? Who put you together?
Frankenstein.
Dr. Frankenstein made you, yes. From what, number 1?
From what?
Yes, from what did he make you?
From a simple girl.
From a simple girl? I thought he put you together from bits and pieces.
Take your headphones off and get to the business of marking your ballots, if you will, please. There's no further time to question. So without consultation, as usual, just vote now and select, if you will, Elsa Lanchester number 1, Elsa Lanchester number 2, or Elsa Lanchester number 3. All ballots are marked. So, Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I voted for number 3, partly because I didn't ask her any questions, but she didn't answer wrong on buskers and Tales of Manhattan, and I think she once played a busker, and I think the Tales of Manhattan...
What is a busker?
You know, it's those English street entertainers with the ornaments and buttons sewn on their clothing.
Peggy.
You know, it's the funniest thing. I thought she played Catherine Parr, but I voted for 3 anyway because of Ladies in Retirement.
Yeah.
Orson Bean.
Well, I didn't vote for 2 because buskers are not underwear worn under the costume. I didn't vote for 1 because the Bride of Frankenstein was sewn together from bits and pieces found here and there in terrible places, number 1. I voted for number 3.
And Kitty.
I voted for number 3 because I do believe that she played Anna Cleves in that marvelous picture and was wonderful indeed in it. And I think number 3 is the real Elsa Lanchester.
Very well, we'll find out whether or not this is true as to who is the real Elsa Lanchester in a minute.
Does it seem like everyone has their hand out? Now.
Now, panel, it's time to find out which of these 3 ladies in truth is the real Elsa Lanchester, and you voted unanimously for number 3. So, number 3, you not only got the most votes, you got them all. Are you Elsa Lanchester? Off your hats, if you wish, because I know it's not too lovely to wear. It gets pretty warm. Now let's find out who you are. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Frances Leslie, and I live in New York City and teach music.
Thank you. And number 2, what is your real name and what do you do?
I'm Eileen Burns, and I've just completed a story about the New England coast for Macmillan.
Thank you. Well, Elsa, it's indeed an honor and a great pleasure to have you on our show. And I gather that the distorted answer that came through for your reason of being in New York is true. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I've said that already about the art collection.
It's quite an extensive one that he have?
Yes, it's quite a large one, quite a well-known one. And we used to have a house full of museum people, which made life extra interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever have Vincent Price over?
No, he didn't come. A rival, I guess.
He loves art, though. He's a big art man, too, isn't he?
Yes, yes.
Tell me, are you still touring at all in your one-lady show?
I did that in Hollywood in May and June. It was my 4th farewell. In Hollywood, that is, having been all around the country, you know.
Of all this is probably a silly question, but it probably is one that you're always asked. You played so many fine roles. Do you have any favorite, or did you enjoy each one as you were doing it?
Yes, I think everybody has to enjoy what they're doing. Otherwise, you couldn't look forward to ever working or doing anything. You must believe in what you're doing and perhaps kind of feel rather warm when it's finished about it, and then on to the next.
You left many a warm spot, believe me. Well, it was a great joy having you with us, and you ladies, too. And in checking the score, there were no incorrect votes, but in that case, there still is $75 coming your way, and our deep and sincere thanks. Goodbye, and God bless you. We'll be back in just a minute. That's all we have time for. Goodbye, Pat. We'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
See you tomorrow, too. And in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Bye.
This portion of To Tell the Truth was brought to you by New Dove for Dishes. Made to be safe even for dry problem hands. To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. Johnny Olson speaking. Today's program is pre-recorded.
Does it seem like everyone has their hand out? Now.
Now, panel, it's time to find out which of these three ladies in truth is the real Elsa Lanchester, and you voted unanimously for number 3. So, number 3, you not only got the most votes, you got them all. Are you Elsa Lanchester? Ladies, you may take off your hats if you wish, because I know it's not cool everywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, from New York City, Gary Moore. Welcome. Hello. Hello, how are you? Wherever you are. Thank you so much, and welcome to a nautical and who knows, perhaps somewhat naughty edition of To Tell the Truth. Our first guest is a cruise director, and this cruise director has a great deal to say about the goings-on luxury liners and the seafaring folk who love to float about the ocean blue. We'll find out more about them after we meet our entirely proper panel here on To Tell the Truth. Gene Rayburn. I want to tell you, I've been on ocean cruises, and I didn't run into any of this stuff. And either it didn't happen or I didn't get my share. I'm not sure which it is. But in any event, let us now meet our cruise director. Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
Number 2.
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
Number 3.
My name is Geraldine Saunders.
And your job, landlubbers, is to locate the real Geraldine Saunders, and here is her salty spiel. I, Geraldine Saunders, am the world's only female cruise director on a luxury liner. For the past 7 years, I've devoted 19 hours a day, 7 days a week, to making people happy, both on shipboard and in different ports of call. I've taught dancing, run bingo games, conducted charm courses, even acted as the ship's unofficial psychiatrist and matchmaker. Ah, yes, matchmaker. The wild, deliciously wicked world of the luxury liner invariably brings out the romance in one's soul. I've written a book about my life as a cruise director, in which I reveal everything from how to handle Godzillas to why Christmas cruises are the bane of our existence. My saucy book is titled The Love Boats, and it is signed Geraldine Saunders. And I love the blurb up here from the review from the Los Angeles Times. Exotic ports and erotic games on a sea of sun, sex, and booze.
Boy. Ship ahoy.
And by the way, I've been asked to say this book has been bought for television by the wonderful world of Disney. No, actually, it has been bought for television for an NBC movie, and we'll be right back. Three very easy-to-look-at ladies, all of whom claim to be Geraldine Saunders, a cruise director on a luxury liner. And let's start the questioning, please, with Bill Cullen.
Number two, for the sake of semantics, just to get it out of the way, what are Godzillas?
Godzillas are usually a man or a woman, or can be a group of people who are the worst passengers. A cruise staff get together and decide who are the biggest complainers, and we call them Godzillas.
And number one, the Los Angeles Review mentioned the erotic games in the book. What are some of these erotic games you play on your tours?
Well, we play bingo.
Oh boy. Boy,
The priest calls out dirty numbers.
Friends across the land, Gary Moore said that. All you St. Michael. What, number three, if I may change the subject briefly, these Christmas cruises that are the bane of your existence, what happens on a Christmas cruise?
Well, we always seem to get all the lonely, sort of misfit people who are usually not too happy at home at family.
Well, number three, you do more than play bingo, don't you?
I'm sorry, we got ourselves a buster there. We're going, please, to Kitty.
Thank you. Number one, how do you get a job like this?
Well, I went to college at Cornell, and I was in the hotel school of management. Then for a summer, I got a job on a ship as a hostess.
I see.
I did such a good job, I got a fabulous offer as a cruise director.
Thank you. Number two, do you get any sleep on these cruises? What are your hours?
Well, you have to sleep very quickly because you work late and get up very early in the morning.
Number three, how do you make matches?
Oh, you just, by instinct, really.
Put people together?
Yes, absolutely.
Number two, do you have to fend off fellas yourself? You look very attractive. You all three do. How do you fend off the fellas?
Well, usually, I'm too busy to be, I just
You're moving constantly.
I'd say I'd like to, but I'm too busy.
Oh, I see. Would that work? No. Number one, when you get on the cruise and you look over the passenger list, do you decide who should be together and who should not be together?
Well, sometimes I make mental notes, but many times people will approach me.
Oh, and ask you for somebody?
Oh, yes, will ask me.
And from Kitty, please, we go down to Gene Rayburn.
Yes, you've been everywhere, eh? Number two, how far do you go?
Well,
I mean, where do you go to the Caribbean only?
Depending on what what ship I'm working on.
Yeah.
So,
what is your line, number two?
I'm presently working for Princess Cruises.
Yes. And number three, do you agree with number two's definition of a Godzilla?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And what line do you work for?
I work for Princess Lines also.
And what boat have you been on specifically?
Oh, it's been the Island Princess, the Sea Princess out of Los Angeles.
And number one, have you ever gone to Europe or the Mediterranean?
No.
No.
Not with the Princess Lines.
Oh, you're all with the Princess Lines?
Yes.
Well, I knew a princess once, but that's another story. Have you ever officiated at a marriage, number one?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have.
And who performs the ceremony?
Well, the captain does, but it used to be legal. It is no longer legal for the captain to perform a ceremony. He will do it, but usually the couple is married before they get onto the ship.
Yeah. Number two, do you agree?
Oh, ready, little buzzer takes us on to Peggy.
Number 2, can the captain marry you at the beginning of the cruise, and then at the end of the cruise you just say it was for funsies?
I'm afraid not.
Oh. Now, number 3, don't women outnumber men on cruises?
Yes, they do.
Well, number 1, doesn't that mean that the crew has an extraordinarily good time on a cruise?
It definitely does.
Thank you. Now, number 2, do you get a nice stateroom, or are you down in the bowels of the ship by the winch or whatever it is?
No, they give me a nice, very nice cabin with the passengers.
With the passengers?
Near the passengers.
Oh, near the passengers. How nice. Number 2, don't the other ladies who are on the cruise that outnumber the men get a little sore at you because there you are so good looking and the guys probably want to dance with you and not with those poor ladies with the glasses that's sitting in the corner? I want that too. Yes.
Well, I try to dress very prim and properly and act very
I don't think that's possible, dearie, but anyway.
All too soon, friends. It is 5 or 6 bells. I wasn't able to count them, but we got bells anyhow that ended the game and made it necessary for us to ballot. Indeed, who is the cruise mistress? Is it number 1? Or is it number 2? Or is it number 3? What we do is we pay the group $50 for each wrong guess. We pay them $500 if none of the votes is correct. And Bill starts, please.
Gary, my grandaunt on my father's side was the first cruise directress, actually, for the Cunard Line.
No fooling.
Had a brief affair with the navigator of the Titanic, and for one reason or another, it just sort of ran out. Nothing much came of it. And I'll see you.
Well, where you go? Mayday. I've got a free showing, and we're going pleased to get it.
Well, I'm going to vote for number 2 because she smiled or even tried to laugh at one of our male panelists. I'm not going to name him.
Okay.
Weak jokes. And it looked to me as if she'd been used to smiling and laughing at weak jokes for a long time, and it's number 2.
Well, let me apologize in advance. Whoever it is, number 2, I didn't mean for it to be a weak joke. We were going on down, please, down to,
what's
his name down there? Gene Raper. Yeah.
Look, Gary, I am absolutely positive it's number 1. I am quite, I mean, she went to college and she studied and she just was very glib. But the one I want to go sailing with is number 2. So I voted for her.
So your mind votes for number 1, your heart votes for number 2.
Yes, I don't care about your game. I'm voting for number 2.
Peggy.
Well, number 2 is very flirty, but I don't think that you have to be that in one to be a cruise director. And number 3, I don't think you go to sea a lot, but this number 1, and you need a lot of energy if you go to get up in the morning and stay up until late at night and everything. And number 1 has got a lot of pep, so I voted for her.
Hey, that's great. It's spread all up and down, and that means the same thing's happening to you in your mind there at home. Let's straighten it out. The votes are in. Will the real Geraldine Saunders please stand up? Geraldine! Good bunch over there. Let's find out who we all are. Number 1, please. What is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Arlene Saunders, and I sell cookware for Allied Metal in New York.
Ah. Not related. Your name is Saunders, but you're not related to Geraldine.
No, I'm not.
No, just coincidence. All right, number 3, can you tell me about you, please?
Yes, my name is Priscilla Rudd, and I'm a homemaker, mother of 3 from West Orange, New Jersey.
Ah, no. Geraldine Saunders, thank you very much. I hope the movie that you're making for NBC turns out well.
Thank you. I'm very eager. They're going to test me for the part, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I get the lead in it.
Wouldn't that be a lovely bonus? Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you, young ladies, also. Now, next, we are going to meet a former prisoner who used his time behind bars to great advantage, and I'm happy to say that it paid off for him. We'll be right back.
419.
Now let us say hello to a former convict.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Frank Earl Andrews.
Number 2.
My name is Frank Earl Andrews.
Number 3.
My name is Frank Earl Andrews.
And here is the compelling story of Frank Earl Andrews. I, Frank Earl Andrews, spent 23 years behind prison bars. My last jail term was 55 to 67-year sentence for armed robbery. To all intents and purposes, I thought that I was as good as dead. Finally, however, I pulled myself together. I began to write, and in 1967, I sold my first story. Then, together with another prisoner, I edited an anthology of the writings of inmates in the prison. They were selections from prisoners who had served time for 30 or more years. It wasn't as easy as it sounds. In order to get the book published, we actually had to smuggle out the manuscripts. Ultimately, my seriousness of purpose convinced the parole board that they should set me free. Once again, I am living as a free man on the outside, and my prison writing experience has stood me in good stead. I am now working for a major publishing firm. Signed, Frank Earl Andrews. And let us start the questioning, please, with Miss Kitty Carlisle.
That's fascinating. Number 2, I don't quite understand why you had to smuggle the manuscripts out.
Well, that's because under prison regulations, you are only allowed to write to members of your immediate family, and there's also a problem of censorship that usually comes up.
Oh, number 3, do they censor mail that goes out of prisons?
In some prisons they still do, but since the recent rash of prison rebellions, they've been negotiating and loosening up on the censorship.
I see. Number 1, what kinds of stories were there? Were they about personal experiences?
Both kinds. Personal experiences, plus some of the prisoners even wrote poems and just all types of stories.
Number 2, now that you're out of prison after having been there 23 years, how long have you been out?
About 3 months.
3 months. Do you find it hard on the outside?
Well, it's different, that's all.
It sure must be different. Number 3, what publishing firm do you work for?
Pyramid Publications.
And you, number 1?
Pyramid Publications.
Number 2, what do you do?
Sorry, Kitty, got a buzzer going down to Gene.
Number 2, are they saying Pyramid Publications?
Yes, Pyramid Publications.
Is that here in New York, number 2?
Yes, they're a paperback publisher.
I see. Now, number 3, if you were sentenced 55 to 67 years, normally I assume you would be eligible for parole, and after a period of time, you get time off for good behavior, you would have gotten out. When would you have gotten out if you hadn't done the book?
Well, I get off for parole in 1999.
Was the earliest you were eligible for parole?
No, I was eligible for parole in 11 years.
After 11 years?
Yeah.
I see. And number 1, was it helpful to write the book? Did that get you out a little sooner?
Absolutely. Without it, I would still be in.
Number 2, what prison reform would you recommend more than any other since you've spent so much time? And where were you, number 2?
Well, I'll answer that the other way around. First of all, I was at Joliet in Illinois, about 50 miles south of Chicago.
Yes.
And secondly, I would recommend conjugal visitations more than any other.
Mm-hmm.
And please, it takes us on to Peggy.
Thank you. Number 3, do you still have to report to a parole officer?
Once a month.
Thank you. Number 3, were you in Joliet as well?
No, I was in Broadway.
Rahway in Jersey. And number 1, where were you?
Attica.
Oh, were you there during the riots?
Yes, I was.
Well, what do you think would be the best thing for prison reform?
Well, a whole list of things, including better food, better treatment of prisoners, better parole procedures, and I can go on and on.
Thank you. Number 2, when you're in prison, do they search your cell ever? You know, just come in and just search your cell to see what you've got in there?
Well, they can do that, but they usually don't because they've searched you so thoroughly by the time you get in, there's not much use for that.
Thank you. Number 3, are there any former prisoners that have become professional writers?
Several. Edgar Smith wrote a book, Brief Against Death. He did 14 years in the death house. Reuben Hurricane Carter just wrote a book.
Thank you. Number 1, had you gone to school before you went to prison? Or did you go to school while you were in prison?
Both. I quit high school. I finished high school in prison, and then I took some writing courses, correspondence.
Thank you.
And finally, to Bill Cullen, please.
You know, the thing that's most disturbing about all of this, that they all seem to agree that they had to smuggle the manuscripts, smuggle things they had written. Number 3, is there any legal way that a prisoner like yourself, if you indeed were he, can get your manuscript, what you have written, out to the public? Any legal way?
Now, yeah, you can do it now. This was done before, you know, they lightened up on the various rules and regulations, mostly as a result of the riots. And
For instance, number 3, in what year was it that you had to smuggle your manuscript out?
1971.
Number 1, do you agree that now manuscripts written in a prison about prison life or anything else the prisoner wants to write about can now be legally released and gotten out to the public?
That is correct.
Now, you, however, number 1, had to smuggle yours out.
Yes.
By what means?
Well, people who visited me, I slipped the papers to them, and there's no searching of the people that go out.
When did you smuggle your manuscript out, number 1?
Back in about 1968, 69.
And the improvement has been made since that time?
After those riots, a lot of improvements were made.
Number 2, when you had visitors, were you able, we always picture, or we see pictures of prisoners having visitors where there is no personal contact, even finger contact made. How were you able to smuggle or get your manuscript to the people who were visiting you, if indeed you use that system?
Well, I'd really rather not tell you because a lot of people might see it and get hurt.
And is it still... Thank you.
All right, friends. That's it. Game over. Time to ballot, if you will. What do you think, friends? Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Or is it number 3? Our Miss Carlisle has to make the first move.
Oh, yeah. Well, none of them really look like jailbirds. And they all look like absolutely charming citizens. But number 1 has a look of a man who's lived alone a long, long time. I mean, number 2. So I voted for number 2.
Number 2. All right, so there we go. Smack in the middle and down to Gene Rayburn.
Well, the two imposters, whoever you are, you were terrific, I'll tell you that.
Tough, yeah.
It seemed to be Gary, number 3 didn't have time enough to grow that long a hair if he's just been out 2 or 3 months. And number 2, I don't know, I voted for him because of his answers that he gave seemed very convincing to me.
I think it was number 2 who said he'd only been out 2 or 3 months. I may be mistaken, Gene. I don't know. Peggy?
Well, if number 2 has the look of a man who's lived alone a long, long time, he wouldn't have been in jail because they're absolutely mobbed in there. Yeah. So, and I didn't vote for number 3 because I just didn't believe him. But number 1 had a long list of prison reforms he wished to get through, and I feel if you've been in the can, you'd want a lot of reforms.
All right, so we got a 1, and 2 twos, Bill Cullen.
Being in prison that long, I imagine whether you harden to things or don't harden, but you get a way of answering things and not being... Number 3 had a way of answering things like they weren't... He wasn't treating them like a matter of life and death. They were facts, and he answered like they were just so many facts, and for that reason.
All right. That's the way it goes, friends. The votes are all in. Will the real Frank Earl Andrews please stand up? Frank Andrews. Guys, you made it tough for the panel. Let's all find out who we all are. Number 1, sir, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Louis Crew, and I am responsible for a dial-a-joke at New York Telephone.
Well, no. And number 2, sir, tell me about yourself.
My name is J.C. Thomas, and I host a show called Talking with Thomas on teleprompter cable television.
Good enough. I understand that you have a new book coming out. Is that so?
Yeah, in February. It's titled Pros and Cons.
Pros and Cons.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with it as well. And thank you very much, Frank Earl Andrews and friends. Well, now, according to the little old clock on the studio wall, both hands are at 0, and so it is time for us to say farewell. Take care.
Remember when Regis got jiggy with it?
I was trying to figure that one out myself.
Eubanks was like totally radical.
Picks up everything but girls.
And contestants were far out.
I haven't had so much fun since we had to drink moonshine for a week.
Take a trip back in time with the GSN Midnight Flashback. Rewind through 3 decades of classic game shows 5 nights a week.
Just you and me, baby.
The GSN Midnight Flashback, Tuesday through Saturday, starting at 12 midnight, only on GSN.
Something to talk about. Dinner.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Steve Betts.
Number 2.
My name is Steve Betts.
Number 3.
My name is Steve Betts.
Only one of these people is the real Steve Betts, and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. Now let's meet our panel. Actor and raconteur, Orson Bean. Former Miss America, Mary Ann Mobley. Star of the new feature film Popcorn, Tom Villard. And to tell the truth's very own, Kitty Carlisle. Here's the host of To Tell the Truth, Gordon Elliott.
Oh, thank you and welcome to the show. And good morning, panel. Good morning, Gordon. Mary Ann Mobley, is it true that you spend your spare time with sharks? And I'm not talking about real estate developers.
Or my agent.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yes, I do. I'm getting my advanced open water certification, and I go scuba diving down the Bahamas with sharks. And I got to dive in Epcot Center with the living seas with the sharks there.
And you prefer their company to Hollywood. What a strange woman.
Well, you know how to predict a shark's actions. Sometimes humans are a little more clever about covering up.
You just use that southern charm on those little old bitty creatures.
It's hard to say hi, y'all, though underwater.
And Kitty, you look gorgeous
Oh,
today.
thank you, darling.
You
I'm so
look-
happy to be here.
Yeah, the men just measure up, but you look beautiful.
Gordon, do you know, speaking of sharks, do you know why lawyers can swim unmolested among the sharks?
I do not know.
Professional courtesy.
Let's get right to the story presented by our first team of challengers, all three of whom claim to be Steve Betts. And this is his story. Please read along with me. I, Steve Betts, am one of the few fortunate Americans who escaped Kuwait when the Iraqi army invaded in August. For hours, we watched helplessly as Hussein's tanks bombarded the army base. All hell broke loose. I could hear machine gun fire. People were being killed. Homes looted. 4 days later, I heard the border was open, and I decided to make a break for it. I threw my briefcase, my camera, my...
Ladies and gentlemen, from New York City, Joe Garagiola!
And welcome to Tell the Truth. Now, if you're a faithful viewer of this show, you know that this game is played with one real person who must always tell the truth, right? And then two imposters who can lie right through their teeth, okay? Well, our first guest, he's made a career out of being the most outrageous imposter that we've ever come across on this show. And you're going to see what I mean right after we meet our panel. And let's meet him now.
Here is Nipsey Russell. Peggy Cass. Bill Cullen. And Kitty Carlisle.
You don't like it down there? Well, in just 1 minute, we're going to meet a real imposter, and then we're going to meet our two imposters. But first, let's say hello to our real, genuine panel here, our regulars of Cass, Cullen, and Carlisle.
But you forget for a minute.
Don't do that to me. And now this week, we got the very real Nipsey Russell.
Indeed. I am here to set the record straight about sex appeal and a woman's weight. It's nice to be neat and look petite, but if you want to feel some heat, you got to have some meat.
Okay, and with that, let's meet a champion imposter.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Frank William Abagnale.
Number two.
My name is Frank William Abagnale.
And number three.
My name is Frank William Abagnale.
Don't miss a word of the various life stories of Frank William Abagnale. I, Frank William Abagnale, am known as the world's greatest imposter, and no wonder. In the course of my nefarious career, I've palmed myself off as a doctor, lawyer, college instructor, stockbroker, and airline pilot. To become an airline pilot, I merely bought a plastic ID card for $5, affixed an airline logo from a model plane hobby kit, and in no time at all was co-pilot for a major airline. As a bogus lawyer, I actually worked on a state attorney general's staff. For 6 years, I also cashed over $2,500,000 in bad checks in 26 countries. Ultimately, I was sentenced to 72 years in prison. I served 1 year in France, 1 year in Sweden. I then served 4 years in a federal prison in this country. Paroled, I now devote my life to the prevention and detection of crime. Signed, Frank William Abagnale. I'll tell you what's so funny.
Yeah.
The real one, he passes $2.5 million in bad checks. I took 2 pair of pants to the tailor, I had to leave a deposit. How do you figure that? And we'll be back with some questions right
Honest
after this.
face.
Yeah. You have forgotten that the 3 gentlemen over there all claim to be Frank William Abagnale, who has had a career as a doctor, a college professor, and an airline pilot, not one of which he was qualified for. So, for the first time, he's going to have to tell the truth, and we're going to start our questioning with Kitty.
Thank you. Well, whoever you are, I don't think you're exactly to be congratulated, but it is a marvelous story. Number one, why, with all your talent, and you're obviously a very bright fellow, why didn't you go in for a legitimate profession?
It was really a question of dollars and cents. When I was a young man, I needed the money, and I thought this list of careers were the easiest way to get it.
I see. Number two, how come you stayed on the state's attorney's staff for 6 years? They didn't catch you out.
No, it wasn't for 6 years. It was approximately 1 year.
Oh, I see. But even so, they didn't catch you out, did
No.
they? Number three, when you got your pilot's license, did you pilot the plane?
I never piloted a plane. Most of the time I spent in a jump seat.
Which jump seat?
I took other airlines that were not the brand that I had my pilot's license with that I was working for.
Oh, and you mean you were traveling for nothing?
I traveled, that's right, for nothing.
I get it. Number two, what is the first thing you stole from?
Never actually stole anything. First thing I did was write a hot check.
And what was it for?
For about $60.
And they cashed it?
Yes.
Buzzer, and we go down to Nipsey Russell.
Number one, there was a movie called The Great Imposter made by pretty much the parallel to the story you told. You know who the star of that movie was?
I believe it was Tony Curtis.
Yes. Number two, do you know who the most famous gate crasher was of all time?
I don't believe so.
Okay, let me go back to number one. What credentials were you required to show when you were a doctor?
When I was a doctor?
Yes.
Well, I made up a series of diplomas and certificates that said that I graduated with honors from...
So you falsified?
Yes.
I see. Now, number three, I would be interested to know what you were arrested for.
The actual charge was carrying forged documents, which in this case were checks.
And did you ever forge any documents such as an airline pilot's identification or a lawyer's degree?
The identification card was easy. Basically, I had an identification card made at a standard place that makes them.
Did you have to carry on some kind of a conversation so that people who were also in the profession might know something about you?
I did a little reading before and after. As I went along,
Let's go to Peggy.
Number two, did you ever give anybody medical advice?
Yes, I worked for a year as chief resident of a hospital in Georgia.
Could I ask you, number two, which hospital?
It was the Cobb County General Hospital in Marietta, Georgia.
Did anybody get well under your, or was it vice versa?
Yeah, I had no problems.
Oh, you didn't treat the big jobs
No.
then, just fingernails and things like that, right? Okay. Then. Number one, you said you got a diploma from law schools. You made them up. Which law schools? I want to know if you really took the class.
I made up the law degree
From where, though?
From the University of, from New York University.
Uh-huh. And did you, and where were you, what state attorney's office did you work in? Which state?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
And that was too far away from you to check up on you? Was
Exactly. That's why I went there.
Number 3, since you had all this money, $2,500,000 in bad checks, are you still rich?
I have a few dollars left.
And they didn't take it away from you?
Internal Revenue took almost 90%.
Those rats. They do it to everybody, though. No reason to feel bad about that. Number 3, what's a deadhead?
It's when you're flying, you're supposed to be on duty in another country and you're just flying back for free to get there.
Number 3, what is that outfit you've got on?
Buzzer.
That looks like Paul
Buzzer.
Muni, and I am a fugitive from
Paul Muni. Speaking of Paul Muni, here's Bill Cullen with the
Fruit.
questions.
Number 2, I imagine you mind embarrassing questions, so forgive me. This parole you have, is it real? I mean,
My parole?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it expires in 1981.
I'm just asking because how are we to know this is really a parole you have? Number 1, you said, it is stated here, Joe said, in no time at all, I was a co-pilot. For the record, can I clear something up? Were you a co-pilot in the cockpit of an airplane?
Not actually, no.
And were you number 2?
No, not
And
actually.
number 3?
No.
Good. That's a relief for all of us who must from time to time.
That is certainly true.
What you did, number 3, was just utilize the privileges that a co-pilot gets as far as flying for nothing and
That's
things
right,
like
the
that.
special treatment and the fact that I could sit up with the pilot and co-pilot while we were flying.
When you were doctor number 3, did you make house calls?
Never did.
See there, that's a real good imitation. If you get.
Okay, that means now our game is over and it is time to vote. They must mark their ballots, no consultation, no change. And do you think it's number 1? Or do you think it's number 2? Or do you think it's number 3? We pay $50 for each incorrect answer, $500 if all the answers are wrong. The votes, and Kitty, you got us started. How did you vote?
Well, it's very difficult because number 1 has that sweet, honest, open face that any mother would love. Number 2 looks like a serious fellow you trust as a doctor or a resident. But number 3 seemed to know all the answers about deadheading and the Internal Revenue and all that. So I voted for number 3.
Number 3. All right, let's go to see how Nipsey voted now.
Well, usually I find that when you're flying false colors, the less you say, the better chance you have of getting away with it. Number 3 kind of laid back, and
okay.
One phony knows another when he sees one.
One phony knows another. All right, let's go to Peggy. How did you vote, Peg?
Well, I didn't go along with the crowd. Number 3 knew about deadhead and the Internal Revenue, but practically everybody does. Now look at number 1. He almost looks like a priest. I mean, he could fool anybody. That's what I said.
You just gave him a new idea.
Nipsey said he just got a new idea. All right, Bill Cullen, how did you vote?
Well, I don't know. I went along with the other votes. Number 3, he looks like the kind of guy who could talk me out of anything that I still have.
Aha. All right. I don't know if I said it, but $50 for each incorrect vote. If all the votes are wrong, it's $500. I just thought I'd say that, guys.
Oh, dear.
Oh. Okay.
Here we go.
Now, will the real Frank William Abagnale please stand up?
Strike 3, folks.
Okay. $500. They did it. They did it. Now,
if he fooled the doctors and the lawyers and the bankers, what chance did we have?
That's right.
Hey, you're still good at your racket.
But I tell you, it was a team effort. I want you to listen carefully and closely to what the imposters do. Number 1, very loudly and very clearly, what is your name and what do you do?
I have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Leonard Dembo. I'm the principal of a high school, and Peggy will be glad to know that I am a Catholic priest.
That gives me the shivers.
Wait till number 2 has to go to confession to him backstage. That's the thing. Let's find out who number 3 is, who got 3 votes. What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Richard Lawrence. I'm president of Law Enforcement Associates. We manufacture police equipment and lie detectors.
ask you one question. You have engineered some extraordinary escapes. Tell us about one of them.
Well, I'm the only man to ever successfully escape from the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia.
How?
Since it's impossible to get over the walls or to come out physically, I impersonated a federal prison inspector and walked out of the prison.
You just tell the people you have another incident like that? Will you just
Yeah, I had a case where the police had my hotel room surrounded in Atlanta. I went out the back door and I had a suit on. As I stepped out the back door, 2 officers came around the corner and they said, "Hey, you, hold it." And I just turned around to him and said, "My name is Davis, FBI." And they said, "Oh, excuse me, sir." And I sent him around back front.
Listen, I want to show you some pictures now. He's actually had nerve enough to take pictures of when he was posing as a doctor, as an airline pilot, and I want to show you Frank as a medic. Take a look. There he is, as Dr. Imposter right there.
A regular Marcus Welby.
And there he is as a pilot. Boy, he looks very official, doesn't he?
He could bribe
So there he is. So thank you very much, Frank. Thank you, our 2 imposters, for playing our game to tell the truth. Well, how about that one? Well, hockey fans among you know that the New York Islanders have become a real good hockey team. And we're going to, well, in fact, so good they have one of their coaches is a woman. And we're going to meet her in just a minute. Coach.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Barbara Williams.
Number 2.
My name is Barbara Williams.
And number 3.
My name is Barbara Williams.
Here is Barbara Williams' skating story. I, Barbara Williams, am the first woman to coach in the National Hockey League. My specific job is to teach the New York Islanders the art of power skating. I show the players how to utilize the edges of their skates more effectively, how to increase their speed while conserving energy, and how to use their weight for maximum balance. One drill calls for a player to lock his arms against mine, then to push on me as hard as he can and to try and knock me down on the ice. I come by my skating expertise quite legitimately. Not only is my level of skating that of a silver medalist in figures and dance, I am also a former speed skater. Signed, Barbara Williams. Okay, we'll start with our big hockey fan, Bill Cullen.
Number 2, I imagine do you get to any of the games on the road when the team's playing on the road?
Occasionally.
Number 3, if you had to pick the fastest skater in the National Hockey League, bar none, who would you choose?
Bobby Bourne.
And number 1, how about you?
Yvonne Cornway.
I have one more name. Number 2, do you want to pick one that you think is the fastest?
Is he still skating?
Uh-huh.
I'd go with Cornway.
Is there anyone else on Cornway's team who also...
Well, Maurice Richard, but he's not still skating anymore. The Rocket.
Maurice Richard is the Rocket.
Who do you pick?
Yeah, who?
I pick a guy by the name of Martin now with Montreal who really can turn it on up the side. Anyway, Cornway, why did you ask me a question,
So
Joe?
that we get the buzzer and get Kitty in there, our real expert. Okay, Kitty.
Number 1, are these men or women that you're teaching?
Men.
Men. And...
Not field hockey, Kitty. Ice hockey.
Ice hockey.
Don't they have girl teams of ice hockey?
Not the way the East players look.
No. All right. Well, anyway, maybe they will someday. Number 2, when these men push against you and try to knock you down, how do you save yourself from falling? And what is the technique you use?
I use the edges of my skate.
And?
I turn the edges in, and then they can't push me over. There's no way they can push me over.
Uh-huh. And number 3, how has this improved your team's performance?
Their speed. They're a much faster team.
And number 1, do they win a lot more?
Well, we just lost against Montreal, but they had a good year.
In general?
Yes.
Let's move down to Nipsey.
Number 3, are you coaching hockey or just skating technique?
Skating techniques.
And number 1, do you know anything about the strategy of the game of hockey?
I'm learning from the players.
I see. Number 2, who was Yvonne Durrell?
Don't know.
Never heard the name. Number 2, sticking with number 2, most of the hockey skating I see on defense is going backwards. How does one power skate backwards?
Are you talking to me?
Yes,
Sorry.
number 2.
You put the edges of your skate out. and you turn the edges out, and you can skate backward a lot better.
I see. Number one, and on hockey skates, is there a little riveting at the toe of the skate for quick stopping, as there is in figure skating?
No.
All right, now, let's move over to Peggy.
Thank you. Number two, do professional hockey teams provide a dentist for the people, or do they have to pay for that themselves?
Well, they're covered under a major medical plan.
For the dentistry, because I notice there's a lot of missing teeth in hockey players. Number one, in which town is the Nassau Coliseum?
Uniondale, Long Island.
Thank you. And number three, what's the hat trick?
The hat trick is to score 3 goals in one game.
Thank you. And number one, Jean Rattel, what does he play for and what position? Which team does he play for?
Rattel plays for the Boston Bruins, right wing.
Thank you. And number three, the Islanders, how long have the Islanders been out there? How old is their franchise?
6 years.
Thank you. Number two, where does Dennis Potvin?
That means that our game is over, and now it's time to vote. They must mark their ballots, and do you think it's number one? Or do you think it's number two? Or do you think it is number three? Okay, the ballots are all marked, and Bill Cullen, how did you get voting there?
In spite of the fact that number one had Rattel skating in the wrong position, she had the right team, but I think it's number one. I'm voting for her.
You think it's number one. Kitty?
I think it's number one. She's very serious about it.
Okay, Nipsey?
Give us the most information about teams, number one.
Okay, you gonna make it unanimous, Peg?
No, if I know that John Rattel is in the right wing, shouldn't she know it? I voted for three.
Number three. Okay, just a little reminder now, if all the votes are wrong, $500. I thought I would throw that in there, folks.
I think Peggy's right.
Okay, Willie Rio, Barbara Williams, please stand up. Let's find out who the imposters are. Number two, what is your name and what do you do?
My name's Patricia Hamilton, and I'm director of the Hamilton Gallery of Contemporary Art in New York City.
I knew that.
Number three, what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Regina Henry, and I'm advertising and public relations manager of the Plaza Hotel.
Who's that guy? He asked me. He's on your own.
Barbara, since most of the players are Canadians and they grow up actually on ice skates and they're pretty good skaters, what kind of a selling job did you have to do to get the job? How could you convince them?
Well, first of all, most hockey players have never had a skating lesson in their lives. You know, even the Canadian players, they've had a lot of opportunity to skate, but they maybe they're skating with the wrong shoulder or not having their body in the right position or not really using the edges, getting the most out of the thrust of their skates. So I started working with Bobby Nystrom, and some of the other players came along. And I guess seeing that I could skate right alongside of the players and that I could excel doing certain exercises convinced them. And the certain players that I have worked with did excel in balance or...
Once you proved you could do it, they just went right along, huh?
Yeah, I never had a problem. I know being blonde and everything, but they never...
That didn't hurt your chances at all, Barbara, I'll tell you that. But we thank you for playing To Tell the Truth, and thank you, our two imposters. Thank you very much, ladies.
I was hoping to...
We're going to go over and see the imposter. Join us again. So long.
In addition to the cash awards, our first team of challengers.
If you haven't been watching Playmania, here's what you've been missing.
We're looking for a top 5 show. Seinfeld. Woo! One for me!
Playmania, live late night Thursday through Saturday at 1 a.m., 12 Central, only on GSN.
Well, that's our show for today, and I hope you had a wonderful time on the game show Binge. It was a ball. We'll be back next Sunday for another game show Binge. Until then, good night. This has been an Adam David Keipel Curry production.